relatives and survivors of the mass killing, as well as crime scene and ballistic experts. Ntantla Mabaso has more.
When proceedings get underway, defense lawyers for accused 2 to 6 will cross-examine the key state witness, Luando Abi. Abi has previously testified that he was the getaway driver in the September 2024 attack. He was initially nabbed with the group, however later turned a Section 204 witness. Last year, accused 1, the alleged mastermind Mzukisi Ndamase, concluded his cross-examination of Abi. Ndamase is already behind bars serving time for another murder. It's alleged he orchestrated the Lusikisiki murders from prison. The trial will run until March 2026, with the court also set to hear evidence from investigating officers. The accused face a range of charges, including 18 counts of murder related to the shooting, conspiracy to commit murder, and the illegal possession of weapons and ammunition. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News.
Let's stay in the courts where the long-running trial into the murder of football star Senzo Meyiwa resumes in the Pretoria High Court this morning. Proceedings are entering their 4th year with 5 men standing trial. The Bafana Bafana captain was gunned down at the home of his girlfriend Singa Kelly Khumalo in October of 2014. The state believes the murder was a hit called by Khumalo. Khomotso Modise has more.
This year will mark 12 years since Senzo Meyiwa was shot in Vosloorus at the home of his girlfriend in the east of Johannesburg. While the trial has been moving at a snail's pace, last year the state wrapped up its case and it's now the defence's turn to call its witnesses. Before the trial went on recess, Sifiso Kwabini Zungu, one of the key defense witnesses, was on the stand. Like some of the accused, Zungu claims the lead investigator, Bongani Gininda, assaulted him, forcing him to sign a statement about the day Meyiwa was murdered. The court now wants to hear from Gininda on his version. Khomzo Modise, Eyewitness News.
To this now, Minister of Small Business Development Stella Ndabeni says the South African delegation is eager to talk innovation, competitiveness, skills and inclusive growth at the World Economic Forum. The week-long meeting of global elites kicks off in Davos today. Ndabeni is part of the delegation led by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana. This year's edition comes amid accelerating complexity, rising geopolitical fragmentation and dramatic changes in innovation. Ndabeni says a focus on small business development is key to the global shifts.
As Team South Africa, to say there can't be inclusive growth if you are not involved in small businesses. And of course, at the center of that are partnerships that are helping us get more finance, business-driven support, and of course, at the center of it, promoting innovation so that we drive our economy that creates lots of jobs.
And in Spain, at least 21 people have been killed in a crash involving high-speed trains. According to authorities, more than 30 people are being treated for serious injuries. It's understood a high-speed train traveling from Malaga to Madrid derailed and crossed over onto another track, colliding with an oncoming train. Authorities have warned that the death toll from the incident could rise. All rail services between Madrid and Andalusia have now been suspended following that accident. Gold is trading at $4,660.82 an ounce. The rand is at 16.41 to the dollar, 21.97 to the pound, 19.08 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.13 a barrel.
Heading towards Fourways, there's queuing traffic on the N1 North between Malibongwe Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive, while travelling on the M1 South. There's slow-moving traffic. This is between Marlborough Drive and Corlett Drive due to an accident, as well as roadworks taking place between these 2 points.
A cloudy start to the week across Gauteng. Temperatures will peak at highs of between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the death toll from flooding in Limpopo has now risen to 18.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. It's wonderful to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're well this morning. I hope you also had a wonderful weekend, as I did. Did you watch that match between Senegal and Morocco last night? What a chaotic final. How did you find it? I mean, it was an agonizing defeat for Morocco. Remember, they haven't lost a competitive match on home soil, I think, is it since 2009 or so? That's over, 16 years? Over 23 matches or more? But congratulations to Senegal, though. They are the African champions. Did you watch the game, and what are your thoughts? 011-883-0702. That's the number to dial. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Any thoughts on U.S. President Donald Trump and his decision to impose 10% tariffs as of February 1st on goods from Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and the United Kingdom? The tariffs would increase to 25% if an agreement is not reached by the 1st of June on the sale of Greenland. Now, Europe is trying to figure out how to respond. And I'm going to be speaking to the German not the German Chancellor, but the German Ambassador to South Africa, Andreas Peschke, at 10 o'clock about what options are available before them, right, as these affected European countries, but options available before NATO too, because Denmark is a NATO member, so is the United States. President Trump has always expressed his intention to annex Greenland, despite it remaining an ally of the U.S. I mean, the U.S. even has a military base in Greenland. So how do you think the European Union should respond? Listen to what President Trump said not so long ago as he tried to justify this intended annex of Greenland.
I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too, I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also. But we need that because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger, there are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
The irony of it all. I mean, the point about, the fact that a boat landed there 500 years ago does not mean that they own the land. Man, I mean, the reason the United States exists is because someone landed a boat there. Also, if you use Trump's logic, like many people have pointed out, then the people who arrived by boat in Cape Town, right, at the Cape of Good Hope in 1652, how many years now? Is it, 370 something years ago now? Those people cannot lay legitimate claim to land ownership then in this country because they were not indigenous to this land, right? That's Trump's reasoning. But then the Trump administration just changes narratives when it suits them. But also, it's so sad because Denmark had actually more soldiers die in Afghanistan than any other country. And Afghanistan was a U.S. war. Denmark sent its soldiers there. And this is how America pays them back. Someone was saying the other day that, Britain should repurchase America then. After all, it was theirs once and it would enhance the North Atlantic security. So if you don't sell it to Britain, President Trump, then they are going to impose tariffs on the U.S. and any other country who supports the U.S. in resisting this amazing deal. Would that be fair to America? So what do you make of this latest move by Trump? And how should Europe respond? 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. At 10 o'clock, we're going to speak to the German ambassador to South Africa, Andreas Peschke. about the options available, because it looks like Trump is quite serious about annexing Greenland, whether the easy way through negotiations, and those have failed, which is why now he's trying to use tariffs to put pressure on Europe, or the hard way. What is going to be the hard way? And what options are available for NATO if America acts in that manner? That's a conversation coming up at 10 o'clock. We're also going to talk about this diplomatic mess that we've now been thrust into, because once again, our SANDF generals may have acted outside of instructions. On Friday, as we wrapped up the show, we spoke about the investigation that has been initiated by the Department of Defense to figure out who ignored or misinterpreted or even misrepresented the instruction from the Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, that Iran must not participate in the naval exercises but take observer status. Dakota Legoet is the chair of Parliament's Defense Committee. He's going to join us. At 10:30, we continue with our series looking at countries that have been invaded by the U.S. Last week, we focused on Iraq, but today we're focusing on Vietnam, because for decades, the United States, of course, it's positioned itself as a global defender of freedom and democracy, and yet across the 20th and 21st centuries, it has also been one of the world's most militarily interventionist powers, involved in wars and invasions across Asia, across Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, from Vietnam to Iraq, Afghanistan to Libya. These interventions have reshaped nations. They've toppled governments and left long-lasting political, social, and human consequences. So when we talk about the Vietnam War, they often describe it as one of the moments when American power was truly tested and found wanting. But to understand why that war mattered, we have to go back a bit. And that's exactly what we're going to do today, because there are a lot of people who died, right? Many people who died. Millions. In fact, I think it was an estimated 3 million Vietnamese people, many of them civilians, and more than 58,000 American soldiers. And I deliberately decided we should do this series as we start the new year, because the next couple of months are going to be interesting, my friends. So it's important as we observe this geopolitical environment changing, we remind ourselves of where we've been before, because history seems to be repeating itself. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Family Matters feature. And today we're going to discuss how to support a loved one who comes out as gay, because coming out to loved ones can be one of the most vulnerable and nerve-wracking experiences of a person's life, not only for the person coming out, but I'm talking about for their loved ones, right? Family members of an LGBTQI plus person are often caught off guard with the news, and it can come as a shock, regardless of whether parents suspected something or not. Hearing that your child or loved one may be part of the LGBTQI plus community can also be difficult for you as a family, for whatever reasons, whether religious, whether it's cultural reasons. Though there are many families and loved ones who are supportive and loving throughout this process, there are plenty who react poorly. They end up saying hateful things or even disowning their loved ones for being queer, which has a seriously detrimental effect on their mental health. So we've got an expert who's going to help us understand what the dynamics are. And if you've ever had to come out to your family, I'd like to know, how did they take it? Or maybe you're a family that has had a loved one ever had to come out to them. How did you receive that family member when they came out? And maybe you're a dad or you're a mom who had to come out to their kids. I want you to share your experiences with us at 11 o'clock on our Family Matters feature. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
I was Clement. I think with fear of with FOMO, I resulted to watching the match this morning. I just actually wrapped it up, the rerun. And I actually watched it from the second half, because the first one was quite boring. That's actually why I got disinterested. But when I saw all the drama this morning, when I obviously went onto socials and WhatsApp groups, I figured let me just have a look. Look, I mean, there was highs and lows, right? I mean, I don't know why the Moroccan officials, ball boys and all, and I actually saw on social media that they actually took away the goalie's towels. So the Senegalese goalie actually had to have someone watching his towel the whole game.
Yeah.
And it's not for juju or anything. It rains. Those towels are actually used to dry your hands.
Yep.
And yeah, for me that was very unsportsmanly. I think overall the better team won, but yeah, it was an interesting match.
It was. In fact, I saw a tweet by our colleague Robert Marawa. Where's that? I'm looking for it now. But yeah, Robert was just talking about how crazy that is. Like the African Footballer of the Year. Yeah, in fact, this is the tweet. Robert Marawa tweeted, "The African Footballer of the Year, heavily involved in a lot of this nonsense. It would never do this at his club, but they treat Africa as a joke project." I mean, it's crazy. You should see the way he threw that towel out of the pitch, and someone had to get over and get it. Yeah, it was really, really chaotic. Hey?
Morning, Clement. Mhlengwe in Bramfisherville. Regarding the final, the AFCON final yesterday, I think the referee was bought. Sorry, that's my take. But then it tarnishes the image of CAF and its referees. And then also there's a South African there. I forget this referee's name. Tom, Bongile Tom, yes. It also tarnishes his image because obviously by hook or crook, Morocco were supposed to win. But unfortunately, the gods of football were with Senegal. And thanks to the leadership qualities of Sadio Mane, because this has never happened before, that the team walks back to the dressing room before the match ends. But Sadio Mane came to the rescue. And then the gods were smiling on Senegal. Nice show as always, Clement. Bye.
Listen, at the end of the day, we saw Senegal lift that trophy, right? Even though those referee decisions, there were some poor referee decisions. Interesting game altogether. 20 minutes now after 9 o'clock.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Good morning, Clement and 702 listeners, and Happy New Year! Tiro from Tembisa here. Clement, Trump, he's something else, eh? I mean, I wonder what AfriForum thinks of him now. For the fact that you landed in our country with a boat, that doesn't mean you have you have ownership of the land. So it means the EFF is right, and without compensation.
Hi, Clement. When they talk about a bully, they talk about Trump. I don't know. Really. This person just wake up one day, he just want to take another part of the world, and then he claims it's his. It's either the hard way or the easy way. Aye, guys, we are in trouble with Trump. Actually, we are not in trouble. He's just a joke. This gentleman is just a joke. I don't take him seriously. Not anymore. Salismo Salantui from Profontaine.
Yeah, listen, and this is something we're going to be seeing in the coming months. And then Hilton says, "Hi, Clement. I watched the AFCON final last night. What a disappointment from the referee to the Moroccan players. Even the ball boys, the post-match journalist treatment of the Senegalese coach last night just added more division between North African countries and the rest." That's a message there from George. Another one says, on Trump, says Clement, Trump is a bombastic bully. Time to stand up to this bully. He should be impeached. His behavior is the same as China on Taiwan and Russia on Ukraine. Not the way the USA should behave. That's Lee in Alberton. But what do you do, Lee, when you say time to stand up to this bully? Who stands up to this bully? Are you saying we, as in the world? Who is going to stand up to him? I mean, look at how even some of the European countries that are now trying to make noise about Trump going after Greenland, what were they saying when Trump went after Venezuela? Some couldn't even bring themselves to condemn what America had done. But that's the same European countries, even the European Union, that was calling out Russia for what it's done in Ukraine. And now, their ally is up next. And that's the thing about the Trump administration. You may think that, oh, we are aligned because, in Venezuela, we all agree that, Nicolas Maduro was a dictator, therefore good for the Venezuelan people. Well, is this going to be good for the people of Greenland? Because Greenland has its own people, has its own culture, has its own history, has its own constitution. So will that be good for the people of Greenland? So there are inconsistencies here. And it's not just inconsistencies from the part of the United States. It's inconsistencies from some of these influential countries, even countries in Europe. It's okay when that is done against people they're aligned on with Trump. But when it comes to their own allies, somehow the picture has to change. Joe, you're calling us from Pretoria. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Hi, morning, Clement. How are you?
Sure, man. Go ahead.
Clement, yes, I just wanted to give you some views what Trump is trying to do, because if you remember the history before, that is why it is said the history repeats itself. During the French Revolution, we had the Hitler's hierarchy, which it was said when Germany sneezes, the whole country catches cold, where Hitler was annexing all the entire countries. Somehow he even made his soldiers to move around other countries and he occupied them. Now, what I look at now is Trump is trying to repeat that on his own tactics way, but he's trying to show that he can be also the second Hitler in life, but it's coming slowly and slowly. We must watch him. Thank you, Clement. I don't want to get into depth about this.
Yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting couple of months, Joe. It's going to be an interesting couple of months, and we're going to try and bring about content that sort of just helps us understand the context, right? Go back in history to understand where we are now and where we're likely to end up, because believe it or not, we are going to be affected by whatever decisions that these powerful countries take. At some point, it gets to us. Pastor William, you're in Pretoria. You want to talk about the AFCON match. How did you find it? Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Mr. Clement. Hey, I want to tell you that I was behind Senegal. I enjoyed every moment. I did not like, the fact that they did not award a penalty to the Senegalese. So, I was like, now when they had to, award that penalty for Moroccans, I did not feel it, because number one, it was in the last minute. And I was like, now if this penalty is taken, these guys are going to win it, So I liked it when the guys boycotted, because, the referee wasn't fair enough, because in that last moment, I think the penalty was not supposed to be awarded. So, when I saw the guys getting out of the pitch, and then when they came back, I could sense that, this guy, the penalty here, they are not going to make it, because the way the commotion was, So when the goalkeeper of Senegal, saved that penalty, I was like, here, Senegal is going to get it. And indeed, Senegal got it. And I'm happy. Yeah, they got it, man.
Yeah. Pastor William in Pretoria. Thank you.
Hi, Clement. Regarding the issue of the AFCON final, it was a beautiful match, but I think the behavior from Senegalese players to just boycott in the middle of the match, that's an appalling behavior. Mustn't tolerate that nonsense. They must be fined and charged so that they can send a strong message to other players and countries. Thank you very much.
Morning, Madi Majang, Joburg. Regarding the Morocco and Senegal game, man, You can see that those people wanted Morocco to win by all means, to win the game by all means. And their unsporting behavior, bruh. They're taking the goalkeepers' towels, throwing them away, kicking them. These North African guys, you can see them when they play the likes of Downs and Pirates in the CHF Champions League. Those guys are bullies, man. They are bullies. And there were incidents where I see they were flashing those laser lights at Senegalese goalkeeper Mendy. No, it can't be. It can't be. No, I think CAF must do better. Even Morocco must be fined. They can't just say they will fine Senegal. They must be fined Morocco. But they were taking the goalkeepers as towels. For what reasons? To want to frustrate them. That's how they do the North African teams. That's how they do. But actually, Senegal won. And I was standing with them when they walked out of the pitch. It was a good shot. Now, those North African teams are bullies, bro. It's like they are not Africans. Have a great one. Congratulations to Senegal and Sadio Mane.
Good morning, Clement. Yeah, I just wish that Trump could invade Greenland. Like you say, I just think these European countries were supporting him with what he did in Venezuela. So they didn't have a problem with that. So yeah, I just hope he invades him. Let him shatter NATO like he wanted, and let's see what happens. As KB in the south of Joburg, great show.
Morning, Clement and Tim Mapare from Rodipot. What Trump is doing is wrong, but you have to admit that when he wants something, he gets it done. He gets it done, and I wish our president, if he can take away one thing, is the urgency of what needs to be done, Because now, and our presidents, now when someone does something, now we have to go to inquiry, commissions. Under Trump, there's no such thing as that. We want the results now. Everything gets done now. Despite of what he's doing is really, really, really ethically wrong, but he literally goes for what he wants. And here we just have inquiries and commissions.
Yeah, and that's one thing you've got to give it to him. I mean, he hasn't been consistent. You can call him maybe decisive, but there are certain things he promised, for instance, during his campaign that he's not been able to do, or there are things that he promised during his campaign that he's now acting against. But one thing about him is once he says he's going to do something, often he goes for it, regardless of what the consequences are. And whether you like it, whether it's good or bad for you, whether it's illegal, he is going to push it through. And that's what some people in the US who follow him and may not agree with him sometimes, that's what sometimes they appreciate about him. It's 9:30. Let's get the latest Eyewitness News headlines. Tabang, I'll start with your call. After the headlines, I'll go to your WhatsApps as well, coming through on 072 702 1702. Keep them coming. Sfiso, hi. It's not Sfiso. How are you?
I'm good, Clement. A very good morning. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has admitted that years of infrastructure neglect coupled with severe weather events have left municipalities struggling to cope. Days of heavy rain have triggered flooding across parts of Limpopo, Mpumalanga and the Northwest, prompting the classification of a national disaster. Action SA has thrown its weight behind its Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate, Xolani Khumalo, as the TV presenter turned politician prepares to hand himself over to authorities today. There have been reports that police in Katlehong have been looking for Khumalo after an assault case was opened against him. It's alleged that Khumalo and others assaulted a man in Ekurhuleni during a drug and search and seizure operation. And in news just in, Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chelwane is expected to visit the scene of an accident which has reportedly claimed the lives of 11 learners this morning. We will bring you more on that story with our reporter on the ground, Mongezi Gogo. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the M1 North, we've got some delays reported approaching the Boysons Road exit, and then there's also queuing traffic on the M2 West. This is between Heidelberg Road and the Crown Interchange. Please be on the lookout there. Traveling around the Crown City area, you should budget about 40 minutes of your time this morning. And then heading towards Fourways, we still have got that accident on the N1 North. It happened near Winnie Mandela Drive, delays from Malibongwe Drive. There's also queuing traffic along the M1 South between Grayston Drive and College Drive. Roadworks are causing these delays. Please be on the lookout and approach with care. And then traffic lights are still out of order in Sandton at the M1 and Grayston Drive. They're also out in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck Road. Please approach with care. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Are we partly at fault for turning a blind eye to when the Somali-owned spaza shops in the townships were the target of extortionism? Because had we dealt with it then, some would argue we would not have the massive problem that we have right now.
Well, firstly, we're assuming that the Somali shop owners came forward and identified who was extorting them and were willing to set the prerequisite trap or operation where somebody then comes in, extorts, gets paid.
I'll just declare.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Andile here with more than just a betting app ad. Download the 10Bet app and enjoy the action of betting anytime, anywhere. It's more than just an app. It's a 10Bet experience. Join now at 10bet.co.za. 10Bet is a licensed betting operator and supports responsible gambling. No person under the age of 18 shall be permitted to bet. Betting can be addictive. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line is 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. It's easy to apply. No medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This year is the year. I'll be catching flights and not feelings. Serving looks Monday to Sunday. 5 a.m. club. Small things. I'll be awake before a Hadida can even say, this year things are gonna change.
Okay, so what would you like to order then?
Just hit me with the usual. Kota chicken, single chips and a roll.
Oh, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Get the Nando's Flame Grilled Quarter Chicken, Single Chips and Roll for only 82 Rand. Nando's. Oh, what a place.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
It's 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. We're taking your calls on 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. So far, we've been reflecting on AFCON, Senegal, walking away as the African champion, their second continental title. But it's been a chaotic final. Some concerns being raised about the referee but also the behavior of the Moroccan footballers. We're also talking about Donald Trump, the U.S. President. He's decided to impose these 10% tariffs on countries that are opposing the annexing of Greenland. So 10% tariffs on 8 countries, and those tariffs are going to rise to 25% by the 1st of June if there's still no agreement to purchase Greenland. So basically, the US president is trying to put pressure on these European countries so that they finally agree that, okay, cool, go ahead. You can annex Greenland and let it be part of the United States. Can you believe where the world is at right now? And it's just about to get worse, because if you think Trump will stop at Greenland, like you probably thought he was going to stop at Venezuela, well, you've got another thing coming. Tabang, you are calling us from Bryanston. What are your thoughts? Hi.
Hi, Mr. Manyathela. This is what I'm thinking. I wanted to follow up on Joe's argument, saying that when during the Hitler time, when he says when Germany sneezes, the entire world feels the sneeze. I hold the following view. when Hitler was sneezing then, the world didn't give him more coverage like we do with Trump now. That is why the Germany Second World War didn't survive for long. So with regard to Trump, we all know, and it's a fact, that the tariffs that he was trying to impose on each and every country, whether African or European, they didn't play that much of an event. So why should we worry about Trump when he's saying he's going to annex Greenland? Look at what he did to Venezuela, for example. He did the most international crime that was never even committed in the entire world since I don't know when. Maybe my history, since I know the history. So what I'm trying to cut short my argument is, why shouldn't we leave Trump and not give him more coverage as we do? Because when we do more, we give him more coverage like we are doing. He's happy saying that, no, these guys are getting my attention. I'm getting their attention now. You understand? So somewhere, somehow, we just have to leave him like he do whatever that he want to do. As long as he doesn't give any action, we know that he cannot going to act. Hence now, he failed dismally with regard to the tariffs. Yeah, that is my submission, my friend.
Yeah. Okay, Tabang and Branson, thank you. Let's hear what the other listeners think. I don't think that is going to work because, there must be a free flow of information. You cannot say that the president of the most powerful country in the world must not be covered in the news because somehow we believe that it makes him worse. It doesn't happen like that. We have to report on whatever happens, whether that leads to more damage or not. There has to be free flow of information, and we have to understand also the consequences of the decisions and actions that even that administration takes. I think the president of Panama at some point was somehow captured by the U.S. What year was it? I'm just forgetting. Must have been in the 90s. Was captured by the U.S. on, I think it was money laundering charges, if I'm not mistaken. Please, someone who remembers the details, help me out here. I'm just saying to Tabang that the U.S. has almost done something similar. I suppose the difference now is you've got the U.S. declaring that they went and kidnapped a leader of a sovereign state and they said, we're going to take over the country. What? They've done it in a soft way before where they use other illusions and justifications for their presence and their sort of quote-unquote takeover. But this time around, Trump is very clear. He's not even scared. He says, we are going to run Venezuela. He's now declared himself the acting president of Venezuela. He says the Venezuelan oil, all those, the richest proven oil reserves, that's in Venezuela. He says, we are going to take those, use them, sell them for the benefit of, wait for it, Venezuelans and Americans. This sounds like a thriller. It sounds like a script from a blockbuster. Whoever thought? And now he started joking about Greenland and we thought, oh, well, it's just going to be Venezuela. He's just joking about Greenland. Well, here he is. And look at the people. Lindsey Graham, the people that surround Trump at this very moment are the very people that have justified in the past, some of them. Like Lindsey Graham, this is someone who justified consistently the intervention and military intervention of America in other countries. So what's next? Is Cuba next? What stops the U.S. administration from being interested in what's happening on the southern tip of this African continent? I'm just saying the world needs to be ready. Now, I'm watching very closely how Europe responds. And I'll hear from the German Chancellor, the German ambassador to South Africa, if they're going to reciprocate. But I doubt that they will because they see how major the consequences are going to be. What then? Is the world going to leave this man to do as he pleases? To change the rules of engagement? To not respect sovereign nations, but wants to have the morality to say what Putin is doing in Ukraine is wrong? In fact, if you've watched Trump closely, when he was even meeting with Putin, he wanted to concede. He wanted to have Ukraine sign an agreement that allows Vladimir Putin to annex some land in Ukraine. So let's share the territory of Ukraine. That becomes Trump's solution to the violation of international law by Russia. If only we knew that he was doing that, because that's something that he was preparing to do himself in the Western Hemisphere. Let's go to your WhatsApps.
The thing about Trump's presidency is that, and its political demagoguery, is that it's the rise of it. It's so popular to a level that you may think it's going to sweep the whole world. And when it's in the midst of sweeping the world, then it falls flat. That's the nice thing about it, because I can tell you, with all these moves, populism move, he's giving Americans to vote for Democrats again. Exactly what he did with 2016 election campaign and election and him in presidency. So I think we just have to hold on for a few months until midterm. Then this whole chaos will start to fall, and it will fall into places. And I hope they impeach him. Sfiso.
Yeah, Sfiso. And maybe impeachment is for those who want him out. Impeachment is probably, the way to go about it if you want to deal with this as a matter of urgency. Because if we're waiting for midterm elections, and can you imagine what damage is going to be caused just in the next 3 months? Because with the Trump administration, we don't even talk about, the 4 years in office, or the 3 years, or let's look at a year, 100 days from now. I mean, 100, let's look at 100 days from now. Or just 365 days. No. With the Trump administration, literally the focus is, oh my God, I wonder what's going to happen in the next month. So how much damage would have been done? This is a man who's got nothing to lose. He knows chances of him ever occupying a position like this again in the future are nil. So let me build an empire. Let me entrench my name in the history books. Let me change. I mean, in California, roads are being changed to be, Donald Trump Boulevard. He instructs that. Museums must change and be named after him. And of course, when a Democrat comes, all of this is probably going to be reversed. But that's a man who's got nothing to lose, who says, this is my last term, and I'm going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And my biggest worry is how much damage would have been caused.
Good morning, Clement and listeners. I saw this coming when Trump started targeting the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Hi, Clement. With regards to Trump and annexing Greenland, I think he should actually do it just for control. I just want to see those European guys, how are they going to fare against him, because they fail to stand against a lot of wrong things that he does to other countries. So let them get their own taste, of medicine, and let's see how it feels for them. And with regards to Morocco versus Senegal game, why is it that they allow the northern African players to get away with the way they treat other African countries in terms of, soccer, the laser lights, not giving them adequate space for training and things like that? Why is it that, even with CAF, it's the same stories?
Good morning, Clement. It's Ishmael here in Tembisa. Clement, when it comes to the issue of Trump, that guy, he knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy, clean and smart. But people, they don't know the game that he's playing. This guy, after captured the president of Venezuela, he knew that there will be a pressure. There will be pressure from the European countries. There will be pressure from Africa. There will be pressure from everywhere. So now it's creating something so that people, they can forget about what he did to Venezuela, so that he can go away with it. So he knew that he did what he did in Venezuela. So now this matter of Greenland is just a play game, just to take focus away from what is important. That people, they talk about Venezuela, UN is talking about Venezuela. Now it's twisting the focus so that the focus can go to Greenland. They forget what he did in Venezuela. Thank you so much, Clement. Ishmael from Tembisa. Bye-bye.
How's it, Doff? How's it, Savvy? Why are you sitting in your driveway all by your lonesome, Doff?
Selling my car, Sav. I don't trust the internet. I like to wheel and deal my own wheels. That's how you make way more, Sav.
Okay, so where's your car now, Doff?
Potential buyers took it for a test drive.
When did they take it for a test drive, Doff?
3 days ago.
Should have sold it to We Buy Cars, Doff.
Yeah, Savvy.
Don't be Doff, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for a fast, safe sale, geared for you.
You may be paying more for rent, but without insurance, you could be saving on car insurance, like 30-year-old Dineo, who saves an unbelievable 1,094 Rand on her 2025 Kia Sonet. Get a quote now. And if insurance can save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you have been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
For over 30 years, Bid-Air Cargo has kept South Africa's supply chains moving, giving our economy the dedicated cargo capacity it needs. Whether it's oversized, hazardous, or just really, really urgent, when a shipment has to fly, we make sure there's space. Linking all major airports with reliable freighter services. Our promise delivers. Bid-Air Cargo. Every kilo counts. Proudly backed by Bidvest.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
It's going up to 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. AB Bashle, I see your calls. I'll come to you in a moment to comment about Trump. Let's go to these WhatsApp voice notes first.
Hello, Clems. This is CM here. Clement, I watched the game, but the penalty, it was a penalty because there was a push in the box. It was a penalty. But the kicker, even my mom would have saved that penalty. My mom would have saved the penalty. And when it comes for Walker, where do you remember the 2,000 Euro 2000 final between France and Portugal? There was a penalty, and it was that time they were playing like sudden death in extra time. Whoever scored first, the game is over. Then France was given a penalty, and the kicker was gonna be Zidane, and they knew that Zidane is not gonna miss, so they walked away. That was Portugal, Euro 2000.
Good morning, Clement. What happened yesterday with Senegal walking off the field is totally unacceptable. CAF should take action against the coach and the players and give them a huge fine, because it's a disgrace to the game and to CAF itself. That can never happen. Never in this lifetime.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Bashe, you're calling us from Pretoria. What do you want to say? Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
Sure, brother.
Let me tell you something sad. Would it be hard for us to understand that Trump is smarter than most of us? Which empire was ever built on dialogue? Name one.
None.
Name one. Yeah, exactly. So Trump understands history. He knows. It started with the spears and shield, gunpowders and bullets.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing.
Which empire, though, has ever been sustainable? Because, and I made this point last week, that any empire, at some point, the masses go against it.
Look, Trump, as much as we can agree on that, right, that it's unsustainable, but in the process of building it and getting it going and doing power dynamics, Clement, come on, you can see what he's doing. We can see. I mean, he's got to look, I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to take, if I've got the military power to do it, I'll do it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Bring your policies, bring your commissions, do something. That's why nobody can stand up and say anything. We can stand and talk about as much as we want, but nothing's going to change.
Can you
Nothing.
stop someone like that? Do you think the world can stop someone like that from building that empire if the world comes together?
Look, coming together is going to be, it's a different conversation altogether, because people want to ally with them because there'll be benefits to be gotten. So there is no point in us trying to even talk about this. It's straightforward facts. It's history, Clement. Look at it. It'll repeat. We know exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
And you can see it. No one's going to do anything about it.
Yeah, and there are other countries as well that have their own interests in attaining or annexing, land, that is near them. So would they join in the world in fighting against this American empire? But then what about what they are doing in their own backyards? AB, you're in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. I like the clown in the White House. He's doing a great job in making America look totally ridiculous. He never has an original thought in his head. For example, he quotes the other Donald, that's Rumsfeld, who said, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way in respect of the so-called non-existent weapons of mass destruction of Iraq." So Trump said about Greenland, "We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way." And he seems to have learned from that stupid Israeli who, and you probably saw this on the iconic video, was asked by a Palestinian family, "Why are you stealing our property?" And he replied, "If I don't steal it, someone else will steal it." And Trump said, "If I don't take Greenland, China or Russia will take it."
AB in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. Thank you.
Hi, morning, Clem. Alex here in Glen Hazel. Yeah, I was rooting for Senegal yesterday, but the players' behavior when that penalty was awarded to Morocco is shameful, to say the least. That is really a professional and appalling behavior from a group of supposedly professionals. Even if you don't agree with the decision, you have to follow with the rules of the game. I think that delay also really played onto the Moroccans' mind, resulting in that missed penalty. I'm not excusing the Moroccans for their shameful behavior on the other way, but even on review, when you look at the decisions the referee took, they were correct decisions. The Senegalese was a non-penalty because the guy impeded on the other guy, and their penalty was considered because the other guy fouled the other guy in the box. I really, it left a sour taste in my mouth. I'm glad they won eventually, but look, I think they should be sanctioned. For them to walk out of the pitch, delay the match by over 10 minutes, and then come back and then win it, it's just a shameful win. Yeah. Alrighty, thanks. Cheers, bye.
Very good morning, Clement. Clement, look, man, pertaining to AFCON, for me, Sadio Mane is a true legend, really. He showed the leadership skills that we normally lack. But as for the coach, really disappointing to see the coach calling the players to really leave the pitch. He should have acted better than what he did. When it comes to America, for me, Donald Trump is doing what the Americans, the previous president wanted to do, but they were afraid to act out. Trump is doing literally what they wanted to do. It's just that he does have the guts to do it. If they is doing what they're not happy about, they should be removing him. Why are they not removing him? Musharraf, bye.
Morning, Clement. Firstly, I don't think not giving Trump coverage is a wise idea. Trump is too dangerous to actually ignore. I really don't understand why nothing has been done before. The world has a little tyrant upon its hands, and it acts with in toddler ways. There have been talks of impeachments, and he has been impeached before. Why are those current talks of impeachment so weak? Why do they not deserve the same effect of danger that he's doing to the world? Why are we not reacting in the same manner that he's doing to the world? Why are we not giving it the speedy response it needs? Why is he still in office? Because we have a ticking time bomb upon us. a ticking time bomb with very big toys.
Hi, Clem, Mike in Orange Grove here. Well, the American president is playing with fire. I think the EU holds about $18 trillion in treasury worth of the US. They can just play with that. At the end of the day, immediately, US can go bankrupt. One of the things Trump is doing is playing with fire. He's isolating the United States each and every day to a point whereby they won't have anyone to stand by them. He's pushing each and every law in their books, trying to see how far the limits it can take him. So there's a time he was even chatting to the Ukrainian president, and he says the Ukrainian president says, no, we haven't done elections because we're at war. And he marveled at that. So he can be thinking along those lines that probably can have the power to suspend even elections in the US. Watch the space. We have a deranged man in control. Thanks.
There's a new way to experience all your favorites. Pulse Africa, the 24/7 fast channel, now live on primemediaplus.com and the Prime Media Plus app, bringing you the best of Prime Media around the clock. Watch the biggest moments from 7:02. It's non-stop entertainment and authentic African storytelling, all from Africa's leading media network. Pulse Africa, only on the primemediaplus.com and Prime Media Plus app.
Water infrastructure vandalism has tragic and dangerous consequences. The theft of manhole covers can result in fatalities, especially among children. Each damaged pipe, illegal hookup, or vandalized pump jeopardizes access to clean water, disrupts service, and threatens public safety. Report suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg on 0800 002 587. Help combat water infrastructure vandalism. Your alertness can prevent disasters. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
Okay, truck 7, that has 0 warning lights. Truck 8, it's just been serviced. I guess we're running like a well-oiled machine. Where would I be without MyWay's comprehensive cover for my vans and trucks? Plus, cover for my customers' orders with goods and transit insurance. I guess we'll never know.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. MyWay. Live your way.
Ready for a learning experience of a lifetime? Join Richfield's nationwide open day every day this week, including Saturday. Tour our state-of-the-art campuses and find your perfect fit with our range of qualifications. From higher certificates and diplomas to degrees, postgraduate programs and our MBA. Visit richfield.ac.za for more. Richfield. Your future enriched.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. Let's begin with news just in. At least 11 learners have died following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Johannesburg this morning. Preliminary information indicates the minibus taxi the learners were travelling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The area has now been cordoned off as investigators work to piece together what exactly happened. Mongezi Koko reports.
In addition to the 11 fatalities, 5 other learners were seriously injured and have been rushed to nearby medical facilities. The learners are believed to have been on their way to school when the crash occurred, turning a routine morning commute into a scene of tragedy and grief. The cause of the collision has not yet been established. Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chilwan is expected to join police and emergency services at the scene, with authorities promising a full update as more information becomes available. Education spokesperson Steve Mabona.
We don't have much detail, but the scene is active as we are informed. Emergency services are attending to those that they are involved in this sad accident.
The MEC is expected to address the media later today. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, Vanderbijl Park.
Action SA's mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni, Xolani Khumalo, has handed himself over to police in Katlehong. This is in connection to an assault charge opened against him in December last year. According to Action SA, Khumalo was part of a police drug bust when the alleged assault took place. A number of Action SA supporters have now gathered outside the police station to show support for Khumalo. Action SA's national chairperson Michael Beaumont says the party is fully behind Khumalo.
But we are proud of Xolani because he is not a man who fears accountability. He heard rumours about this arrest and he presented himself to the police and said, I welcome accountability, because people who don't break the law, they welcome accountability in our country.
To this now, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has admitted that years of infrastructure neglect coupled with severe weather events have left municipalities struggling to cope. Days of heavy rain have triggered flooding across parts of Limpopo, Mpumalanga and the northwest, prompting the classification of a national disaster. At the same time, coastal provinces, including the Western and Eastern Cape, have been battling raging wildfires, dealing a further blow to agriculture and local economies. As a result, many municipalities have exhausted their available funds and are now turning to national government for emergency support. COGTA Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says chronic underfunding has significantly undermined local government's ability to respond effectively.
The infrastructure in many, especially rural communities, was already not in a good state because of the financial constraints, but this has been worsened by these floods.
Hlabisa says a review of the white paper on local government expected in April will be key to improving disaster preparedness and long-term infrastructure planning.
We will be monitoring that the repairs and the rebuilding must be resilient, because we cannot afford to rebuild this year and 5 months down the line, when heavy rains come, everything is washed away.
In the courts now, the case against the man accused of killing 2 cousins from Mamelodi is expected back in court today. Tebogo Mnisi allegedly shot and killed 21-year-old Baliseng and 22-year-old Seyamo Moramaga in October of last year. He faces 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder for shooting another victim who was seen with the girls before they were killed. Jabuli Limbata has the details.
The surviving victim, Desmond Sinong, was shot in his private parts by 38-year-old Tebogo Mnisi. Mnisi was believed to be in a romantic relationship with one of the cousins. According to Sinong, he had met Baliseng and Tiamo Moramaga during a night out. He says they were planning on going to another local establishment when Mnisi stopped them. Sinong says Mnisi then attacked them, killing the cousins and leaving him severely injured. Mnisi faces 5 charges including murder, attempted murder and firearm-related offences. At his last court appearance in October, he abandoned his bail application. Jabuli Lembata, Eyewitness News.
And in Chile, government has declared a state of emergency as uncontrolled wildfires tear through communities in the south. Authorities have confirmed the fires have claimed the lives of 19 people so far. More than 50,000 people have been displaced by the fires, which have been burning for 2 days now. Authorities say the situation is being made worse by strong winds as well as hot weather conditions. The state of emergency order allows for the deployment of the armed forces to assist. Wildfires have severely impacted south-central Chile in recent years amid growing signs of the impact of climate change. Gold is trading at $4,661.28 an ounce. The rand is at 16.41 to the dollar, 21.97 to the pound, 19.08 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.13 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got some delays on the Mike 1 North due to an earlier accident right near Car Street exit. Delays coming out of Boyson's Road while travelling on the N1 North, queuing traffic as well towards Winnie Mandela Drive. That's due to an accident. Please be on the lookout there. And there's another accident scene reported in the Sandton area. This one is along Sandton Drive right near Rivonia Road. It's causing delays.
A partly cloudy Monday expected for Gauteng today. Temperatures will be peaking at highs of between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. At least 11 learners have died following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Johannesburg.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. And thank you for all of your comments, your inputs on the 702 open line. There are two stories we're going to be focusing on now, between now and 10:30. The first one is around this diplomatic spat, this diplomatic mess that we've been thrust into, because once again, our SANDF generals may have acted outside of instructions. On Friday, remember when we wrap up the show, we spoke about an investigation that was announced by the Department of Defense to figure out who ignored or misinterpreted the instruction from the Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, that Iran must not participate in the naval exercises but take observer status. Because, of course, like we spoke about it last week on the open line, the timing is a bit odd. In the U.S., you had the House of Representatives voting on AGOA, and thank goodness they've managed to approve it in the House of Representatives, but it now goes to the Senate, and already Republicans in the Senate were asking questions around Iran's participation, especially given what is happening in Iran now with so many people that have been killed as they've been protesting. So the timing has just been odd, and it looks like an instruction seemingly was issued by the president and it was misread or ignored. So we'll speak to Dakota Legoete, who's the chairperson of the Defense Committee in Parliament. And then after that, I'm going to bring in the German ambassador to South Africa, Andrea Peschke. I want to talk to him about these new tariffs on 8 countries that the U.S. President Donald Trump has imposed, 10% of the tariffs, including Germany. And these tariffs are going to rise to about 25% from the 1st of June if there is no agreement for America to purchase Greenland. So the German ambassador will join us to talk about what options are available for these countries. Will we see reciprocal tariffs? What is available for NATO if a member state exerts power over another member state? It's never been there before. So how does NATO approach this? That's a conversation coming up in a moment. It's 10 minutes now after 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
Dakota Legoete is the chairperson of Parliament's Defense Committee, joins us now on the line. Mr. Legoete, thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Clement, and to all the listeners at home.
As the Defense Committee, what's been your reaction to what seemingly has been an ignored instruction from some of the army generals, or perhaps an instruction that didn't flow at the right time to get to a point where Iran can take that observer status and not actively participate in the naval exercises? Now the SANDF says it's going to investigate what went wrong.
Yes, thank you very much, Clement. As the Portfolio Committee, we are all also concerned once again by the development within our National Defense Force, especially wherein there are allegations that an instruction from the Commander-in-Chief, who's the President of the Republic, was defied. It's very concerning, but we are pleased as the Portfolio Committee that the Minister on the 16th has issued a statement that she has established a board of inquiry which will investigate what actually happened, and upon investigation we will summon the Minister as the Portfolio Committee to Parliament to come and account, because it clearly demonstrates that there's a breakdown of civilian-military relations wherein some of our senior officers are not listening to members of the executive, in particular the Minister or the President, and that may create or be in contravention of Section 200, which requires us to establish the discipline force in our military. And that would be very intransigent to the spirit of the country and the Constitution, because we can't have generals or senior officials who act willy-nilly, disrespect the authority of the executive. I think we will get a full report as Parliament once the Board of Inquiry, which is established by the Ministers and Executive Authority, has given us the report and tabled it before Parliament, because we can't, as a Portfolio Committee that is responsible to defend the nation, the Republic, its people, our sovereignty and territorial integrity, allow wrong things to happen, because you would know that currently the global geopolitics are very tense.
Yeah.
And whatever we do as a nation, we must do it in the interest of our nation.
Yeah.
And anything other than that would not assist us, because some of these powerful nations, we don't even have the artillery to respond to any possible attack from their side. And I think when we act in whatever positions we have or responsibility, we must also think about ordinary South Africans in case a bomb was to land in their shots.
Yeah.
Who would have taken that particular responsibility?
Yes, and you talk about the disciplined force, because it sometimes feels like there's some ideological, leanings and positionings within the SANDF itself. I remember what happened when the SANDF general went to Iran last year, and the presidency wasn't happy with that because of the political statements that were made at the time. Do you think that's potentially what we're dealing with here? Because this is not the first time that we sort of deal with a matter of discipline in the force. And is there a breakdown of relationship between the Minister of Defense and some of the generals? Because last year she defended, first of all, she condemned what the SANDF general, the political statements he made in Iran, and then the minister flip-flopped a week later and said, no, there's nothing wrong with what he did, which then raises the questions around just what's happening in that department.
Look, it's a matter that we would try to establish as the Portfolio Committee once we have received a report of the Board of Inquiry, which is established by the Minister, in terms of what is the depth of the relationship between the Executive Authority and the Military Command Council of our Republic, because we would not want a situation where there is a discord between the two, because the Constitution puts it very clear that we need a disciplined military force, and secondly, it's very clear that in Section 200 that the relationship in terms of civilian military relations needs to be a professional one. Now, by professional, we mean that none of us who's a subject of the Republic and the authority of the Republic can speak outside our foreign policy, which is a purview of international relations and cooperation, DIRCO. Now, DIRCO is very clear that we are busy on a process to reset our relations with other nations after we were plunged with 30% tariff. We are engaging as part of resetting so that 500,000 South Africans who relies on U.S. companies who have invested through jobs in our country, they don't end up without their jobs as a result of disinvestments or sanctions or whatever, economic sabotage or economic hitman. So whoever who speaks, whether a general or an official of government, needs to understand our foreign policy. And I think DERCO will have to come in as a mentor to assist most of our senior officials in government to understand what is our national interest, what is our foreign policy, because everybody's shooting from the hip, but to the detriment of South Africans, because even some of the nations we vulgarize and bastardize, we don't have the military capacity in case they are to attack us. So we can't be playing with our foreign policy, and we can't be gambling with the lives of South Africans, because we know how bullish are some of these powerful nations and how offensive and arrogant they are, and sometimes even they can be very fascist and Nazist. And some of us, they may just easily treat us like children of a lesser God and just attack us for no reason, because somebody in some military position became reckless and the whole nation has to be set up for wrong reasons. And I don't think it's appropriate. We need to allow DERCO to lead on foreign policy and national interest. And our military officials, let them stay on their lane and do their work, which is expected in terms of subsection 2 of section 200 of the Constitution, to protect the nation, the people, the territorial integrity, and ensure that our sovereignty is not undermined, including by the criminal element, as we see in Madanga Commission and Zondo Commissions.
All right. Dakota Legoete, thank you so much for making time for us. The chairperson of Parliament's Defense Committee, as you can hear, they're saying these generals must stay in their lane. Because sometimes it does feel like that. It feels like they're generals that may, ideologically lean towards a particular side, which then contradicts, our foreign policy. I mean, when you look at what even the SANDF general said in Iran when he visited there, DERCO was consistently trying to say we need to be careful with our messaging outside. Foreign policy is the jurisdiction of DERCO. That is the department that we look to. You don't go to other countries and you start talking and you are jumping the line and you start having conversations about other issues of our foreign policy when you know that's the ambit of DERCO. So it is a bit concerning. It's quite scary that if the commander-in-chief, if the army generals cannot take instructions from the commander-in-chief, if truly that instruction was issued, then we're in trouble. That is the commander-in-chief. When we talk about the discipline in the force, that is the one instruction from their commander-in-chief that they have to follow regardless. It's 19 minutes after 10 o'clock.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02. Let's walk the talk.
All right, let's focus on what is happening in the geopolitical environment now. The U.S. President Donald Trump deciding over the weekend to impose 10% tariffs on a number of European countries, 8 in total, including Germany. And he says he's doing it because he wants them to agree to the U.S. purchasing Greenland. So 10% is where the tariffs are now, 21 or 25% by the 1st of June, if there's still no agreement with these countries to purchase Greenland. What does it all mean? The German ambassador to South Africa is Andreas Peschke, speaks to us now. Ambassador, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. Let me first maybe get your reaction. What was the reaction from Germany when the U.S. president announced these new tariffs on 8 European countries, including Germany? They would start with a 10% and then a 25% if the deal is still not reached. What's been your country's reaction?
Well, quite a weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's for us. It's of course a critical and even I would say slightly confusing situation. But anyway, we had to come up with a reaction quite fast. But we are of course not doing it alone. But we are coordinating with our partners in the European Union and in NATO. So we had a lot of coordination yesterday between the 8 countries you mentioned, Germany, Denmark, Finland, France, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, UK, but also inside the European Union. And then we came up with a joint declaration where we said that, tariffs are a threat to our unity, undermine transatlantic relations, and that we will in due course determine our response. And then in parallel, we had an extraordinary meeting of our ambassadors in Brussels, and they agreed to convene a meeting of the EU heads of state of government later this week. And then I think our joint response, so that is important. We're going to have a joint response. It's going to be determined. And, one first thing you saw yesterday, also beyond Germany, was the European Parliament, which is actually supposed to ratify the tariff deal between the US and the EU from July last year. So they halted ratification. So it was a tariff deal, 15% tariffs for the EU goods into the US, 0% for US goods into Europe. So ratification was was stopped. So we are without a deal now. And I think what we might see if we don't reach an amicable agreement, that the EU as a whole is going to take countermeasures.
Yeah, I'm imagining Trump is putting up these tariffs to try and put pressure on the European Union so that you end up having a conversation about the selling of Greenland. Are you going to hold your positions, and are you able to say that these tariffs are not going to push you to a point where you end up compromising on the very principles of NATO?
Yeah, well, I think the issue right now at hand is to stand up for principles while at the same time looking for an amicable solution by way of negotiations. One thing is, of course, the issue of territorial sovereignty and integrity. I mean, Greenland is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. So the sovereignty issue is clear, and I think we should not go lightly, take this lightly. I mean, sovereignty issues, territorial integrity is a fundamental issue of international law. So here, I think we need to find a principled response that is not acceptable, and that threats in that regard are also not acceptable. That's number one. Number two is, of course, we are all fully aware if we go down the lane of a tariff war, it will be detrimental to all of us. It will be detrimental to European Union member states, to our population, but it will be equally detrimental to U.S. consumers, to the United States. So it's a lose-lose situation. So I think within the framework or within the limits of our principles, I think we are ready to talk. Yeah. We are ready to talk to address the challenges. Yeah. And the main challenge that was raised by the US was security. I mean, security issues. But here we say, wow, I mean, that should be easy. The US is a member of NATO. Many European member states are a member of NATO. Denmark is a member of NATO. So Greenland is also a member of NATO. So you can address that security issue easily within the framework of NATO. So we should be able to find a solution.
So just to be clear, is it fair to say that you have ruled out any reciprocal tariffs on the US?
No, it's not ruled out. I mean, if you don't reach an agreement, if you don't ratify the tariff deal of last year, then automatically, beginning of February, counter tariffs by the EU against the US will enter into force. So if you don't take them back, they will come automatically. So it's not ruled out at all. I mean, there are some member states, like the French president, who are calling to apply this so-called anti-coercion instrument. It's an instrument by the EU to take trade measures in difficult situations. It has never been applied. It would be the first time, but he's calling for that if you don't reach an agreement. So no, you cannot rule it out.
Okay.
But obviously, everybody would hope that at the end of the day we find a negotiated solution. And maybe, I mean, we are just now today starting the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Yeah.
South African leadership is going. Many European leaders are going, and we're probably going to have President Trump. I mean, he's going to be there on Wednesday. So maybe there is room and place for negotiations.
Yeah. I remember that Germany, in fact, took the lead to send personnel to Greenland on a preliminary security mission. But I see now you've pulled off soldiers from Greenland. What was the reason for, one, the initially sending them there, and why have you decided to pull them off now?
Well, I think nothing about this is unplanned. I mean, our contingent, it's not a huge contingent, it's like a low double-digit figure, went to Greenland within the framework of a pre-coordinated Danish military exercise called Arctic Endurance. So it was conducted with allies. So France sent a couple of troops, Germany sent a couple of soldiers, and I think all the 8 countries that were mentioned in the declaration, they sent a few. But then it was clear from the beginning they would go for the maneuver to, beef up security around Greenland. But once the thing is over, they would also probably come back. So that's what's happening. So it's not sending them against anyone and not taking them back because of anybody. We are just following the due procedure.
Okay. If the United States somehow continued to push to take over Greenland, if there is no agreement that is reached to purchase it, what options are available to NATO?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's a hypothetical question, so I can't give you, and actually I don't want to give you a clear answer. We would hope that eventually we're going to reach a negotiated solution around that. And we also see the discussion within the U.S., and we have plenty of fora to talk about it. But I mean, if you think it through, I mean, it's not as if it was NATO against anybody, or we are a defense alliance, but it's a conflict within NATO. So if you can't solve it, I mean, NATO would be in trouble. If one member state of NATO tries to apply force against another member state of NATO, that is really against the very principle of our alliance. So then I think people maybe would need to go back to the drawing table and look at these questions quite fundamentally.
But there's that standard principle within NATO that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Yeah, it is, but but it is actually a joint principle. So if any member state of NATO is attacked by a third country, then NATO would react jointly. But I mean, it was never conceived that one NATO member might take action against another NATO member. So I mean, that is not part of our treaties. I mean, we are kind of an alliance of, so to speak, brothers and sisters. So what if the siblings go against each other? I think that endangers the alliance itself.
Okay. German Ambassador Andreas Peschke, thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
10:30, time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. When we come back, we're going to continue with our series looking at countries that have been invaded by the U.S. Remember last week we were talking about Iraq. Well, today we'll be talking about Vietnam. That's what's coming up after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. At least 11.
I'm sorry, Mbali.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's
good
all right.
morning.
A very good morning. At least 11 learners have died following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Johannesburg this morning. Preliminary information indicates the minibus taxi that the learners were travelling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The area has been cordoned off as investigators work to piece together exactly what happened. Action SA's mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni, Xolani Khumalo, has handed himself over to police in Katlehong today. This is in connection to an assault assault charge opened against him in December last year. According to Action SA, Khumalo was part of a police drug bust when the alleged assault took place. And Metal Workers Union, NUMSA, has announced plans to march to the United States Embassy in Sandton on Saturday. The march is aimed at voicing frustrations over what it describes as American aggression against Venezuela. More than 2 weeks ago, the U.S. launched a military operation during which Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN.
This EWN traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. It's nearly time to head back to university. So why hit the road when you can fly? Book at flysaa.com now. Amo, how are we looking on the roads?
Well, Clement, that accident we spoke about earlier on the Mark 1 North has been cleared. Traffic is now flowing, but if you're traveling around the Amalgam and Mayfair areas, do expect delays on Main Reef Road, Park Drive, as well as Crownwood Road. There's also queuing traffic along the N3 North heading towards Bedford View. This is just as you come out of Van Buren Road. If you're traveling in the Fourways area, do expect delays along Winnie Mandela Drive towards Leslie Avenue. There's also queuing traffic on Malibongwe Drive towards the N1 exit, and that's due to roadworks that are taking place along the route. More updates coming up at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Metric class of 2025, ready to spread your wings. South African Airways makes your uni journey easier with all-inclusive one-way fares from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655 Rand, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144 Rand. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 checked bags instead of 1. On sale until the 12th of Feb. Travel by the 12th of Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
When it comes to protecting your workforce, trust the workwear brand that has been protecting workers for over 150 years, Sweetall. Sweetall has overalls and uniform solutions for every industry, so your team is safe, comfortable, and ready to tackle any challenge. Visit our Boksburg showroom, shop A1 Atlas Road, Westwood, Boksburg, or go to sweetall.com today. Sweetall, we never let you down. Superior protective workwear since 1871.
Outsurance is saving 27-year-old Liam big bucks on his car insurance.
Saving so much every month, around 640 Rand.
That's an awesome 640 Rand saving on Liam's 2020 Ford Ranger. And after 3 claim-free years, he gets an out bonus.
Definitely getting a lot out.
Get a quote now and see how much money Outsurance could save you. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5. It's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Changan CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Changan CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more.
Changan, driven to evolve.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. 702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
It's 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Because of this changing geopolitical environment, we started a series last week where we look at countries that the US has either invaded or in some way brought its soldiers on the ground and look at the reasons why they have done so, because the world is changing and the US is right at the center of that change. Who knows what we're going to wake up to tomorrow? So it's important for us to know the context, to understand what's happened in the past, what justifications were used, and also look at where we are and potentially look at where we are heading to. So last week we focused on Iraq, but today we are focusing on Vietnam. And as I've said earlier on, I mean, when you look at the war in Vietnam, a lot of people often describe it as one of the moments when American power was truly tested and found wanting. But to actually understand why that war mattered, we have to go back a little bit. So we've invited Brooks Spector, who is a veteran U.S. diplomat and political analyst, to take us through the history of that Cold War. Brooks, thank you so much for making time for us. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Let me just add one word to your introduction. Retired American diplomat.
Retired. Oh, yes.
I no longer speak for the U.S. government and haven't actually for almost a quarter of a century. Time really does fly.
It does. Thank you, though, Brooks, for making time for us. Let's start with just understanding what the Cold War was all about. Like, I mean, when people think about the Vietnam War, what do they often misunderstand about how it started?
Yeah, that's very. I mean, history does matter in this case. I mean, we have to see the struggle in Vietnam within the larger context of the evolving Cold War. But we even have to go back further than that, if we can. The French Indochina Empire, quote unquote, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, became a French possession ultimately, completely in the 1880s, and they ruled those parts of that territory relatively benignly, and I use the word relatively, compare it, say, to the way in which the Congo had been ruled by Belgium. I mean, relative is a pretty broad spectrum thing here. It was invaded by Japan during World War II in 1940-41, taking control of it, and at that point, an independence movement began to take shape, guerrilla activities on the part of some, what originally was called the Viet Minh. And one of the great ironies of all of this is that when Ho Chi Minh penned his declaration of independence for Vietnam, who did he quote but Thomas Jefferson's authored American Declaration of Independence? It's right up there at the beginning of Ho Chi Minh's writing. It is fascinating to see that because the assumption was, post-World War II, that the Americans would support an independence movement for Vietnam, given the argument the United States was generally opposed to colonial empires. And what happened was that receiving the Japanese surrender, originally Vietnam itself was divided in half with the understanding that there would be a further vote later on, but the French were desperate to retain their colonial empire and waged, from 1945 to 1954, 9 years worth of warfare to be defeated at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. They had appealed for Americans' air support and equipment support, and they were denied by President Eisenhower on the grounds that ran counter to the American position more generally. As South Vietnam in this case, claimed an independence, American advisors at that point, a couple of hundred at the most, were dispatched from the military to train a Vietnamese military to repel the thought that there would be an invasion from the North Vietnam and China, because the context now is the Cold War. The context is the fear of Chinese and Russian, then Soviet, movements to conquer the rest of Southeast Asia following the Korean conflict, and the fear in places like Indonesia.
What reasons were used? Yeah, what reason actually flew, Brooks? Let's just take a few steps back. So after the French left in the 1950s, the country is now split into the communist north. You have this U.S.-backed south. What reasons did the United States give for stepping in? Because it's not just, I mean, you may take that they said we want to stop the spread of communism because of that domino effect that they were scared of. But was that the legitimate reason why they decided to send soldiers on the ground?
Well, originally, of course, there were no soldiers on the ground. The contingent of training officers, a couple hundred people, hardly constituted an army. But the fear of the domino effect was very real in the American administrations, in government, in politics more generally, precisely because the argument, who lost China from the successful communist revolt and victory in China in 1947, 48, 49, really hit deeply into the American political texture and the American political scene. China was this enormous nation that was now, instead of being an ally of the United States, was now an antagonist and had participated in the Korean conflict with many hundreds of thousands of soldiers coming in from the north. This really colored and created the texture for an understanding, right or wrong. I mean, this, we're going to debate that in history, obviously, for quite a while. Created the texture that any nation that opposed communism, that opposed China, that opposed Soviet Union, was our friend. In the colloquial phrase, they may be bastards, but there are bastards. Okay? There was no argument that South Vietnam was a democracy, but it very clearly was not under communist rule. It was under an autocratic rule by a collection of small collection of families who largely controlled it. By the early 1960s, really, a domestic revolt against the regime, including Buddhist monks who quite literally set themselves on fire as a kind of final protest, began to make it clear that the South Vietnamese government, as it was constituted, and its military, was incapable of fending off the growing revolt against it. And that began to lead to the first commitment of American troops by 1964, 65. And then eventually, by 2-3 years after that, the Americans were dragged in bit by bit, slowly but surely, to a peak of, hold on to your hat here, 540,000 troops. I was almost one of them. So
my goodness!
I remember that period very vividly.
How did you escape that?
Well, I joined a reserve unit and became infantry, but I was assigned as a cook.
Okay.
So I learned how to feed hundreds of troops at the same time, but never abroad.
Yeah. What was the impact of the war, Brooks, on ordinary Vietnamese civilians? Because when you look at, the heavy bombs and chemical weapons like Agent Orange that were used, I'm just thinking of what the long-term damage did all of that cause on the Vietnamese people.
The irony is, despite the damage, despite the death and destruction, and despite the chaos that ensued from that and the fighting itself, the real irony is if you look at the polling data now, and remember Vietnam is a very young nation in the sense of chronologically, people. They're young. They're a lot younger than you are. They're much younger than I am on average. The nation that is, well, at least was up until very recently, most respected was the United States, in part because the Vietnamese have had a generational, going back to the 1200s, opposition to China, because so many Vietnamese now have relatives and associates living in the United States, because there is so much American investment in Vietnam in the form of businesses, factories, and other institutions. the Vietnamese feel that their hold on American, and there are even ship visits, military ship visits now to harbors in Vietnam. That doesn't avoid the question of the destruction, but in some ways the continuing argument is that it almost ruptured the United States itself because of the way in which the fighting and the way in which the draft dragged off hundreds of thousands of young men to fight in a war which no one could quite explain or describe as crucial to the American society, led to huge demonstrations against the war from the mid-1960s on through till 1970-71. Eventually, the Vietnamese began to accept the fact that just as they had defeated the Japanese and the French, they would be able to defeat the Americans simply by waiting them out, and regardless of the cost of their fighting, they would ultimately prevail, which they did. And you can, historians will remember, and individuals can look it up. The last helicopters leaving the American embassy compound were landing on the roof, taking the last few straggling members of the embassy offshore to waiting aircraft carriers and other ships. Thousands and thousands of Vietnamese fled the country for a well-founded fear that the Viet Cong, that was then the southern Vietnam version of the old Viet Minh, would take revenge upon them. And one of the other after effects, of course, was the fighting had spread to Cambodia, leading to the victory by the Khmer Rouge, who decided that anybody who happened to wear glasses or could read was the enemy, generating yet another wave of refugees and migrants. But to some degree, I think the ultimate effect of the Vietnam conflict was a realization by the United States politicians and government figures that the domino theory, that it was inevitable that each country would fall in turn to the onrushing wave of communist victories, was more myth than reality. And that you didn't necessarily need to judge a regime by the words it said as much as by the actions that it carried out.
But what was the risk to America as well? So what if there are some countries that are going to lean more towards communism? And if indeed in Vietnam, if that was the path they're going to take, that was going to have an effect on the neighboring countries, what risk did America think there was to them?
Well, I mean, if we're looking at the contemporary world, there are very few countries who are eagerly embracing the old-style communist rhetoric and idea. Not China, not Russia. They may be authoritarian, but nobody is going to accuse them of being old-style communist anymore. The fact that the only country, pretty much on the globe now, that still adheres to that old-style approach is Cuba, and it's hardly an example of economic prosperity and benefits to its citizens. Vietnam, it's not a democracy. There's no questioning that. You have a political party, and that's it. But it's economically prosperous. It is growing. Its exports continue to rise. Its world trade position grows. If you look at a pair of track shoes or running shoes, I know you're a runner, it's almost inevitable that if you look inside the label, you'll find the highest tech versions of these things are made in Vietnam now.
Yeah, and well, Trump wants all of that to be made in America now. Who knows how things are going to change? So would you...
I don't think that's going to happen either, but,
yeah.
But there we are.
So, of course, despite this military power by the United States, they still withdrew from Vietnam. What does that tell us about the limits of foreign intervention? Because, I mean, you could argue that they failed to achieve their objective. They withdrew in 1973. By 1975, the North Vietnam captured Saigon, and they reunified the country under communist rule.
What it says is there are limits to military power. This is a lesson that has been learned and obviously not heeded.
Has it been learned?
As well, I was going to say historically, as far back as the Greek-Persian wars, military preeminence doesn't always achieve victory. To be fair, I don't think Donald Trump is much of a student of history, and I don't think he's read very deeply into any of this. And there is an assumption, we'll use the word hubris, an overwhelming idea that, in our strength we can do whatever we want, whatever we wish. To some degree, that concept goes back to, of all people for America, to John Kennedy, who in his inaugural address was sort of the high point of we can do whatever we put our minds to as a nation, whether it's to get to the moon, whether it's to defeat the communists in Vietnam, whatever. And there's always the temptation that if you outweigh your opponents by orders of magnitude militarily, you will prevail, except for the fact that people don't always agree, and people will fight on behalf of an idea that is even stronger than your military preeminence. And that was a humbling lesson that the Americans learned in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And it's not one necessarily that is being well understood or interpreted these days by the current administration. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, because it always seems like there are similar patterns here when you look at how the U.S. operated this time around. Do you see similar patterns repeating themselves? Like after that, when you look at what happened in, whether it's Iraq, in Libya, in Afghanistan, and I can go on and on.
Well, there are several patterns there. I mean, with regard to Iraq, military preeminence obviously won the day. It was what happened afterwards that was lost. You can defeat an enemy militarily on the battlefield. You may not necessarily change the rest of the citizenry's ideas about how their country should be managed, organized, and run. Libya is yet a different example. The number of Americans involved in it was, it probably fit in your office, but the end result is a shattered country because old tribal rivalries and disagreements have splintered the country. The injection of American force into Venezuela doesn't, to my mind, equate to the decades-long engagement with Vietnam, simply because there aren't any American troops in Venezuela, and the decision seems to be, as far as I can tell, that the old regime in Venezuela will continue. Its head has disappeared from the political scene there, but they will work out an arrangement with his number two, which struck me as extraordinary. And the real question, I think, that should confront American policymakers going forward is, how do you project force, quote unquote, in an environment where it isn't simply the number of jet fighters or bombers or aircraft carriers that can be brought to bear on any given circumstance? To take one example, I mean, tomorrow morning, hopefully something like this is not going to happen. Tomorrow morning, if the U.S. decided to use its enormous military might against the current regime in Iran, there's no doubt that they would prevail. But that would be an extraordinarily stupid decision, and one that would have consequences that would roll on for decades.
How much of those decisions are also being dictated to by the public? Because when you look at the Vietnam War, the public opposition to that war affected the cause of that war and the decisions that would then be taken by the administration at the time.
Well, originally, I mean, if we roll ourselves back to 1964, 65, support for the engagement in Vietnam was there because it was seen as part of that larger global struggle. And I was going to quote the Kennedy line, pay any price, bear any burden to defend, liberty and so forth. It was only when it became clear that the cost was going to be enormous in terms of a citizenry drafted into the military for goals that no one could quite explain and whose end game no one could actually predict, that opinion turned decisively. Keep in mind that Richard Nixon, who carried on the war after his first victory in 1968, won re-election in 1972 with his pledge that he had a secret plan to end the war. It wasn't a secret plan to withdraw all the troops. It was simply a secret plan to bring the war to a decisive conclusion. And it was only after people like me, were facing the real possibility we would be drafted, handed a green uniform and an M16, and go, live among the other people in what was usually called the Big Muddy because of the way in which the rivers and the swamps were all over the place. It was only when it became clear that we would be drafted to this never-ending debacle that public opinion truly, decisively turned away from.
Yeah, and I wonder to what extent that public opinion will be influential towards the decisions of this U.S. administration in as far as just military intervention by the U.S. in other sovereign nations is concerned. Bruce Spector, thank you for making time for us. He's a retired U.S. diplomat and political analyst.
Dreaming of a tropical escape? World Leisure Holidays has your ticket to paradise with exclusive getaways to the Indian Ocean Islands. From the beaches of Mauritius and the Maldives to the charm of Madagascar, Seychelles, Zanzibar and more, your dream destination awaits. Take advantage of early bird specials and pay stay offers. Call 011-285-2500 and mention 702 for a mystery discount. Or follow us on social media or contact your nearest travel professional. Start planning your escape today. T's and C's apply.
Municipal services are vital to keeping the city safe, clean and functional. By paying for municipal services such as your water bill, you are investing in Johannesburg's water supply. Paying for your services is not just a transaction, it's a commitment to your community's sustainability. Help pave the way for a brighter tomorrow, one payment at a time. Brought to you by the Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Your voice.
Your questions.
Your morning radio with Clement Manyathela.
This is 702.
Coming up after the news at 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Family Matters feature. And today we're discussing how you, as a family member, can support your loved one who comes out as gay. If this is something you've done, you've come up, or your family member has come out to you as a family, how did you receive that? How were you received by your family? I'd like you to share your experiences with us. We'll be discussing how to support loved ones who come out to their families.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. At least 11 learners have died following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Johannesburg today. Preliminary information indicates the minibus taxi that the learners were travelling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The area has been cordoned off as investigators work to piece together exactly what happened. Our reporter, Mongezi Koko, is in Vanderbijl Park and joins us live now. Mongezi, a tragic scene this morning. What can you tell us from the ground?
Indeed, Mbali, I am at the scene where authorities from various sectors, including paramedics and police, have responded to the tragedy that unfolded here earlier this morning. Dozens of police vans, ambulances, EMS vehicles and fire trucks line the road as forensic teams continue their work. Mbali, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi and Education MEC Matome Chilwane have arrived, with Chilwane currently briefing the media alongside Gauteng police. Behind the police tape, grieving family members and community residents stand in silence, some in tears, as they watch investigations continue at the scene marked by shattered metal, school bags and heartbreak. Authorities say 5 learners survived with serious injuries and have been rushed to hospital, while the cause of the crash remains under investigation. Mungi Zikoko, Eyewitness News, reporting live in Vanderbilt Park.
Action SA's mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni Xolani Khumalo has handed himself over to police in Katlehong today. This is in connection to an assault charge opened against him in December last year. According to Action SA, Khumalo was part of a police drug bust when the alleged assault took place. A number of Action SA supporters have gathered outside the police station to show support for Khumalo. Action SA's national chairperson Michael Beaumont says the party is fully behind Khumalo.
But we are proud of Xolani because he is not a man who fears accountability. He heard rumors about this arrest and he presented himself to the police and said, I welcome accountability, because people who don't break the law, they welcome accountability in our country.
We shift our focus to this now. Metal Workers Union NUMSA has announced plans to march to the United States Embassy in Sandton on Saturday. The march is aimed at voicing frustration over what it describes as American aggression against Venezuela. More than 2 weeks ago, the U.S. launched a military operation during which Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured. NUMSA announced its plans during a media briefing held in Johannesburg today. Alfa Ramushwana was there.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores remain in U.S. custody after pleading not guilty to multiple charges brought against them. During a press conference on the 3rd of January, United States President Donald Trump repeatedly claimed that the U.S. is now in control of Venezuela. Trump also stated that America intends to extract oil from Venezuelan soil. NUMSA General Secretary Irvin Jim says these are the reasons the union wants to march to the U.S. consulate in Sandton.
The mad Trump administration has demonstrated that no country is safe from America's greedy appetite to illegally and to violently invade any country, kidnap a president and seize its resources.
The union says the international community must also condemn what he calls American imperialists. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg.
As the geopolitical and geo-economic landscape continues to evolve, global leaders are set to weigh the risks and opportunities when the World Economic Forum gets underway today. Davos will be home to the political and economic elite for the annual meeting, which runs until the end of the week. The forward-looking discussions include efforts to address global issues and set priorities. Nogukanya Mtambo has more.
The global economic outlook has shown modest improvement heading into 2026, but the latest chief economist report says there's still a dose of caution and sentiment. Head of economic research at Barclays Investment Bank, Christian Keller.
You feel the tension in this survey between economists on the one hand, seeing these developments that, shouldn't be good for a global economy. As I said, the trade tension, the fragmentation of the global economy. And on the other hand, you see the big promise of AI, the already happening investment boom and the promise of future productivity growth. And I think this tension, that has really been a characteristic of this report.
A South African delegation led by Finance Minister Enoch Kotongwana will showcase the country's economic progress, reform momentum and investment potential in Switzerland. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
And China's population has fallen for a fourth straight year. The number of births fell to the lowest level since records began in 1949. Authorities have been trying to promote positive views on marriage and childbearing as they try to undo the one-child policy that was in force from 1980 to 2015. Experts say a shrinking population has economic and social implications for the world's second largest economy, exacerbating an already declining workforce and weak consumer sentiment. Gold is trading at $4,659.82 an ounce. The rand is at 16.42 to the dollar, 21.98 to the pound, 19.08 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.13 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 South. This is just as you head towards Randburg. An accident is reported along this route right near Malibongo Drive. Delays from Winnie Mandela Drive. It's causing about a 20-minute hold-up already. So if you're heading towards Randburg, Ferndale, please try to use Winnie Mandela Drive through Bryanston as a result. And then, of course, we've got more delays in the Mayfair area. This is along Main Reef Road between Crownwood Road and the M1.
A cloudy start to the week in Gauteng today. Temperatures will peak at highs of between 24 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, at least 11 learners have died following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park in the south of Johannesburg.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 11 o'clock, Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Time for our Family Matters feature.
702.
Family Matters.
We discuss all things family on this feature, and today we are talking about how you as a family can support a loved one who comes out as gay. Coming out can be one of the most vulnerable and nerve-wracking experiences of a person's life, not only for the person who's coming out, but also for their loved ones. If you've got family members of an LGBTQI plus person who are told that this is who I am, they are often caught off guard with the news, and it can come as a shock to them, regardless of whether parents suspected something or not. When you are hearing that your child or your loved one may be part of the LGBTQI plus community, can be difficult, which is why I'm broadening the conversation to be about you as a family when someone comes and says, this is who I am, but also on the other way around, right? If it's if someone who comes and sits you down as a family, or maybe as a family, you want to start the conversation with a family member that you think is a member of the LGBTQI plus community and you want them to be comfortable, how do you broach that conversation? There are many families and loved ones out there who are supportive and loving throughout that process, but there are plenty others who react poorly. They end up saying hateful things, or they even end up disowning their loved ones for being queer, which has a serious detrimental effect on their mental health. So I would like to know from you if you've ever had to come out to your family, and how did they take it? Has anyone in your family ever had to come out to you? How did you as a family receive them when they told you they are gay? And maybe you are a dad or a mother who had to come out to their kids. I'd like you to share your experiences with us on 011 883 0702. The WhatsApp line is 072 702 1702. And what should you say or do when a loved one comes to you? Have you had loved ones who react in a way that was affirming and encouraging, or have you had loved ones who decided to disown you and chase you out? Send us your WhatsApp voice notes or give us a call. Debbie House is a clinical psychologist who's going to guide us through this conversation. Great to chat to you again, Debbie. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. Lovely to be here. Thanks.
So when we talk about coming out, let's just lay the foundation first. why is this moment often described as one of the most vulnerable experiences in a person's life, even when they believe their family is loving or supportive?
There's a lot of generational and society stigma that has been attached to it. So it brings up a lot of fears of rejection, of being judged and criticized. So it does have a lot of gravity behind it. And emotionally, it just brings up all those belief systems and patterns of self-acceptance, self-love, and it holds a lot of emotional charge. So depending on the environment that they've grown up into will determine the extent to which it's difficult to come out and to be comfortable with expressing themselves.
From a clinical perspective, though, what emotional or psychological risks are present for LGBTQI plus individuals in the lead up to that process of coming out, especially within families shaped by these strong, whether it's cultural, religious, or social expectations?
It brings up a lot of themes of anxiety. They can have panic attacks, depression, where they can start to isolate. And often when the person doesn't feel loved, the anger starts to build up. And if it's not able to be expressed in a comfortable way, then the anger implodes, starts to self-destruct their lives, their emotions, they become depressed, can even lead to suicidal ideation. So it has large impacts on them going forward, even in their definition of themselves, where they might have a tendency to feel that I'm only loved if I fit into a certain category, which means they learn to revise their sense of self and be inauthentic in some forms to be accepted.
Yeah. Is it... Ooh, we were losing you a little bit, Debbie. I hope the line can hold. Is it necessary, though, for someone to actually sit their loved ones down in this context of family and say, this is who I am? Or is it okay if you just leave it as it is? What necessitates, in your experience, the need to say, I actually want to sit with my family down and have that conversation?
I think it's important, especially as a parent, if you do have a feeling or suspect one of your children are coming out, is to actually give them that space that's unconditional and to let them know that you've been aware of what's happening, and just to give them that opening so that they can comfortably express themselves. But it is important to verbalize it and to communicate about it. Otherwise, there's themes of having to pretend, to hide, to be what you're not, puts a lot of stress on the emotional body, and it compromises connections, especially in families. So it's very important to disclose and to discuss as soon as possible, or even just to put it out there, if you are that way, that we still accept and love you for who you are, because that's the most important theme, is unconditional love and acceptance that needs to be bridged in.
Yeah. So what about families who say, but this is definitely against how we know things to be, this is against our culture, this is against our religion? How does a family like that holds dear those cultural or religious principles, how do they find space then to accept, and how should they be responding also to a loved one who comes out to them? Because I imagine that needs some balancing. That's what they believe as a family. Those are the cultural, those are the religious principles they live by, but also this is their son, this is their daughter. So how do you find that balance?
It does cause a huge conflict, especially when it's somebody that you love, if it's your son or your daughter. So it's almost forcing a reevaluation and a transcending of belief systems on some level. Otherwise, you do get them excluded. So it's starting to give people an opportunity to expand their definition of self, and to bring in that we're actually much higher beings than just physically what we present in our bodies. It's like using the analogy of a TV. There's a broadcast signal that comes to the TV. The TV is like our bodies. So everybody's TV can look different, but the actual broadcasting signal that emerges is the same thing. So we're recognizing that our bodies is like a TV, but the broadcasting signal is much bigger. So it's helping us to transcend our physicality and bring in a higher concept of the definitions of who we really are beyond the physical.
16 minutes after 11 o'clock. Let's start with some of your WhatsApp voice notes that have come through so far. We're discussing how to support a loved one who comes out as a family. Is it something you've dealt with? How did you deal with it? Whether you are the person that came out to your family, perhaps they were, it's the family maybe that approached you, or maybe your friend approached you. You've decided to approach a friend that you regard as a family member. I would like you to share your experiences with us on 011-883-0702 or send your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
Morning, Clement. My youngest child came out about maybe 8 years ago. They are marrying another young woman. My child has declared themselves to be non-binary, which is difficult for older parents to get a grip about. But actually, it's just about accepting your family member or your child for exactly who they are. It's just about love and connection, and it is simply about acceptance. And that gives the person a safe space, and it makes them feel approved. We cannot tolerate non-tolerance in our society. Love from Celeste.
Good morning, Clement. In my case, my cousin, we've always known from while he was growing up as a child, the way he was behaving, but he didn't come out until he completed his grade 12. And remember, he went through quite a lot. He lost his mother and father, and he had to stay with my other aunt. So, but the day he completed his final exam, he sent all of us text, and I'm glad that no one was negative with their responses. We all said, thank you for letting us know. Be yourself, live your life, express yourself the way you feel it is right for you. So yeah, we're okay with it. And he's happy.
Good morning. I'd like to remain anonymous. My question would be that I'm a granny born in the 60s, and I now have a beautiful granddaughter just becoming a teenager, and I just feel that she's really confused about her identity, which we all went through. I brought up two daughters, and I believe that they did as well. However, she's believing that she prefers girls. She's wanting to dress like a boy. My daughter's handling it very well, but I certainly am not. All I'm trying to do is just love her, but I'm really out of my depth here. Some help, please. Thank you, Clement. Thanks, Ms. House.
Thank you, Anonymous, for that. I hear how genuinely loving you really and understanding you want to be of the subject matter. Debbie, that is, in fact, the reality for some family members, and especially when you deal with the older generation that may not necessarily, get it as the more younger generation who are struggling with, but what do you mean? Are you not just confused? Maybe give it time. What's your advice for Anonymous?
I think it's right. It is time to start to revise and change these definitions and have a look, because as we evolve, we have to grow to become more inclusive of all beliefs, of all possibilities. So even for that individual who's confused, it's helping us to become, as we said, to regain a deeper sense of self, of who you are, which is much bigger being of light, and to recognize that it's an opportunity to embrace, sometimes to know who you really are besides that. So that unconditional acknowledgement that sometimes things are different and there are variations in belief systems is good to start to embrace that as a possibility, especially as we evolve into change that's constructive.
Absolutely. Is it normal though, Debbie, for parents or relatives to feel grief or even fear or confusion when they deal with a situation like this where their child or grandchild comes out? And how can they process these emotions without placing that burden on the person that's coming out?
If they're experiencing grief, it indicates that there's grief in their own lives where they've experienced some form of loss of their own self identity, or they've been judged in some form and they've lost their true authentic self and had to compromise that to be something else. That's a form of grief because you've lost an aspect of your authentic self. So when you see it in others and you feel grief for them, it's triggering off your own grief. So it's good to look at yourself and to ask yourself that question: where did I lose my authentic self along the way? And where did I feel judged, not accepted, or invalidated?
And I mean, when you look at research, you'll see that family support is a strong predictor of mental health outcomes for LGBTQI plus people. What does supportive family behavior actually look like in practice, beyond just simply saying, oh, I accept you, live your life?
Supportive family dynamics is where the adults or the parents are very balanced in their own selves, or their own mother, father, child principles, where they accept themselves, they're authentic, they have congruence between the mind, body, and soul, which means what they think, they feel, and they do is aligned. That's a role model, that's ideal, which provides a very balanced environment for a child to grow up. But the adults need to live those unconditional acceptance in themselves, because that's what the child will pick up. Often we pretend to accept them, but inside we're still feeling a lot of judgment ourselves that hasn't been processed.
Some people will say that why make a big deal out of it? Why is hiding or concealing a core part of one's identity so psychologically exhausting?
It's not just with LGBTQ, it's with the general population. If anybody has a belief system that's slightly different. So it is a global trend where anything where you act or operate out of the consensus norm of families, societies, or cultures does bring up those same fears of invalidation. So it's just part of that global trend to align with your own individual uniqueness and express that without fear.
Well, what about people who are listening to us now and have never really found do I even call it the courage to sit down with the family, because they've sort of heard the comments maybe that they've made when they've spoken about other members of the LGBTQI plus, and you sort of get a sense that this thing is not going to be accepted here at home, because you can tell just how they speak about it. Or when they use their cultural or religious beliefs to state it clearly that it is not acceptable. And maybe they speak about that so openly in front of, the person who may be queer, because they want them to know that don't even think about, making that official and talking to us about it. For someone who is in an environment like that, how do you advise them to even broach that subject?
The first thing is they have to be able to face their fears of rejection, exclusion, and isolation. Then they realize I actually become my own mother, my own father, where I love myself, I stand up for myself. And then the inner family, which is being your own mother, loving yourself, your own father, to protect yourself, enables you to keep your light shining, no matter what's around you, even if it's a family context. Once you can transcend that, it becomes part of the lesson to know who you really are, external from anything that defines you outside. So it's an opportunity to really become your own validation reference point, so that you keep your own light, become the key to your own state of being, of happiness.
I've got some texts here on WhatsApp that have also come in. Hi Clement, please keep me anonymous. I didn't come out by sitting my family down and telling them that I'm gay. In 2019, I just brought my partner at the time home. I took my partner home, and my sister said that's what she had always known about my sexuality. I just found out later that my sister and my niece were skinnering and so excited that I brought a boy home. In 2017, my mom, on the other hand, was not so happy about it. I never came out to her. She confronted me about it on her deathbed, saying that she had dreamt about it, and I denied it because I felt attacked. that was the last conversation she and I had until today. That confrontation breaks my heart because I will never know if she ever accepted me. Oh, yeah, that's quite painful, hey, Debbie, when it's the last conversation you've had with your mom and you just don't know if she would have accepted you or not, because on her deathbed before she passed, she spoke to you about it and, seemingly wasn't necessarily in support. How does someone get over that? Because you can never know if that acceptance was going to be there or not. But it will probably just pain you when you think about it. And you wonder, would I have ever been accepted by my own mother?
Yeah, and that can lead to a lot of feelings of guilt or resent or regrets and feelings of incompletion. But the theme behind that is that he had to keep a secret to survive. And if that's not cleared for the rest of his life, he will always learn to hide things, to have value. So it's the theme to learn to be able to come out, to break that cycle that was happening with his mother. That's the first thing, is to be able to trust himself to now in the future, just be transparent without fear. But as an exercise, he could imagine talking to his mother on a soul level and explaining to her, the reasons for not disclosing his fears and just having an open conversation with her soul. And then imagine listening to the response of unconditional acceptance from the higher part of her, which can bring the resolution on another level.
Another message says, Clement, I agree with that voice note. I do not believe anyone should come out until they complete their matric because you might be disowned. I once overheard a father hit his seemingly 11-year-old child in the fitting rooms at Mr. Price, Mall of Africa. He was shouting at him saying that, why do you like acting like a girl? You are too soft. This was in 2024, October. Until today, my heart breaks for that poor boy. So for parents who may not understand why their boy child or their girl child even prefers certain things or acts in a particular way, what's the best way to have that conversation, Debbie? Is it best to sit, especially if they're still young, is it best to sit them down to find out more how they're feeling, how they identify, if they understand, or is it better to just let them be and wait for them to be in a position to broach that conversation if ever they ever want to in the future? And I'm mentioning that because in this case, this message says this father was shouting at the child at a clothing shop and saying, why are you so soft? Why do you like acting like a girl? So the father may himself, let's say, is confused. He doesn't understand why is the boy child acting contrary to what he has always known a boy child to act like. So what's the best way to respond?
Well, the father would need to have a look at his own emotional dynamics relative to his, because often what we do to others is what's been done to us. So he might have had a lot of judgment in his life where he was also punished for being in different forms what wasn't accepted. So the father would actually need to go and have a look at his own self and just work on it so that he can get to the point where he can put aside his own belief systems and have the capacity to actually just listen without responding negatively, just to understand his son. But it is difficult for the son as well because often there's nowhere else they can go. So they're forced to stay in that environment, which can be abusive. So alternatives need to be found, but the parent needs to go and look at themselves, to work on themselves ideally, for the child to be able to be safe in an environment where he can be respected for who he is.
Yeah. 011 8830702. Share your experiences with us on the WhatsApp line 072 7021702. We're speaking to Debbie House, who's a clinical psychologist, about how to support a loved one who comes out as gay. Have you ever had to come out to your own family? How did they take it? Has anyone in your family ever had to come out to you? How did you receive them when they told you that they're gay? And maybe you are a dad or a mom, and it was more complex for you when you had to sit your kids down. How did you do it? 011 8830702. you can send your WhatsApps as well. It's 11:30. Maki has the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. We begin with developments coming from the south of Johannesburg, where the number of learners who lost their lives following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park earlier this morning has risen to 12. Preliminary information indicates the minibus taxi the learners were travelling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The area has been cordoned off as investigators work to piece together exactly what happened. Meanwhile, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi and Education MEC Madume Chilwane have arrived and are being briefed by police and emergency officials on the sequence of events that led to the crash. Action SA's mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni Xolani Khumalo has officially been charged with assault and the pointing of a firearm. This morning, the crime activist turned politician handed himself over to police in Katlehong. He was being sought by authorities over an incident that took place in December last year. And the agricultural industry is expected to count its losses in Limpopo and Mpumalanga amid the damaging floods in both provinces. The ongoing weather disaster has created immediate humanitarian and economic crises, with calls for a swift and coordinated response by government. A red level 10 warning for disruptive rain in parts of Mpumalanga and Limpopo last week left a trail of destruction, including damage to homes and other public infrastructure. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. It's nearly time to head back to university, so why hit the road when you can fly? Book at flysaa.com now. Amo, how are we looking?
Well, Clement, we've got an accident reported on the N1 South. It's right near Malibongo Drive. It's causing heavy traffic volumes coming out of Winnie Mandela Drive. At this point, if you're heading towards areas like Ferndale as well as Rand Park Bridge, it could take you about 30 minutes. So please try to avoid the scene. You can still use Winnie Mandela Drive through Bryanston to try and avoid the scene. While traveling towards the Germiston, do expect delays on the N3 South. There's roadworks that are taking place right near Linksfield Road, causing delays. There's also queuing traffic on Main Reef Road. This is between Crownwood Road and the M1. Otherwise, in the city of Tshwane, we've got some issues reported. This is along the N1 North, leaving the Flying Saucer turnoff, and that's due to roadworks there. So please approach with care. And of course, that's your last traffic update from me, Amo Ramila. Stay tuned for more.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Getting ready for university? Well, let South African Airways take the pressure out of your travel. Enjoy all-inclusive one-way fares from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 690, Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655 Rand, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,154 Rand. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 checked bags instead of 1, on sale until the 12th of February. Travel by the 12th of Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
Life keeps getting busier. Parenting, shopping, working, exercising, just surviving. With all of that, who has time for anything else? That's why Netcare introduces Netcare Appointmed. Just tell us what you need, a specialist, GP or dentist, and we'll search our nationwide network of 5,000 doctors and find an appointment with a doctor who best suits your needs and medical aid. That's Netcare Appointmed on the Netcare app.
It's the new year, and Peter is still looking for a university.
Why is this so hard?
And now that he's running out of time, he's not looking at the right things.
Wait, I'm not?
You see, where most universities sell you on what you'll do at university, Emrys focuses on what you'll be able to do when you leave university.
Well, that changes everything.
With a high-performance tertiary education from Emrys, you'll be able to make a mark in the working world from day one.
And I can still register?
Yes. Register today at emrys.ac.za. Emrys is an educational brand of the Independent Institute of Education.
Supercharge your business productivity with Moloi Innovative Solutions. We bring the most highly customized and cost-effective IT infrastructure to your fingertips. Whether it's desktop and server support, cloud services or hardware, software and printer procurement, our dynamic team makes sure that you have the tech that resonates with you. Moloi Innovative Solutions. Experience at its best. Get to moloiis.co.za for more.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Well, one of the key figures in part of the Steinhoff fraud, now being sentenced to 5 years in jail for signing an invoice for 376 million rand that he knew was fake. Are there any bigger fish than he who are still alive?
Yeah, I mean, essentially there's Stean Grobler, who was the company secretary for a while, and he's going to court soon. He's probably the biggest fish left. The finance director, Ben Lachranji, who's already serving a 5-year term for particular fraud.
Rob Rose is the author of Steinhoff.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. That's how we're invested in your story. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
702.
Family Matters.
24 minutes before 12 o'clock. On our Family Matters feature this morning, we are talking about the support to be given to a loved one who comes out as gay, whether that is your child, whether that's your grandchild, maybe that's your dad, maybe that's your mother, maybe that's your sibling, your brother, your sister. Coming out for people, some people can really be one of the most vulnerable and nerve-wracking experiences of their lives. So as a family, especially if they choose to sit you down, that becomes an important moment, and how you respond can really make or break them. And of course, as you've heard, there are other people who've decided not to say anything, but to just live. And if the family just joins in and realizes what's happening, then good. What has been your approach? I've been asking you this morning if you've ever had to come out to your family, and how did they take it? Has anyone in your family ever had to come out to you? How did you receive them when they told you that they're gay? Maybe you're a dad or a mom who had to come out to the kids as well, or to your children's father, your children's mother. How was that experience for you? 011-883-0702. WhatsApps on 0727021702. Let's start there.
To be honest, Clement, it will take years for South Africa to be really progressive with, I think, the constitution coming in 2005 on LGBTIQ community. Yeah, Clement, we may all say we are so progressive, but in reality, on the ground, it's not the same. We've seen these people, we've grew up with them. We can see that they are from the LGBTI community, but we just decide not to accept them because we are too conservative when it comes to Christian values, when it comes to African values, that they can never be something like that. So it will take time for South Africa to progress. And yeah, even us, progressive people, we sometimes use derogatory terms against them. We're trying to unlearn, but we still do it anyway. So to be honest, the reality says differently. It's Fiso.
Yeah, Sfiso, thank you so much for that. Another message on the WhatsApp line says, I'm 73 years old. I called my mom to my house in the early, when I was in my 20s. She walked into my house and told me to make her a cup of tea. I said, I've got something to tell you. And she said she knows I'm queer. No, now go make that tea. She became mom to all of my friends. She even came to Pride March with us. Oh, wow. That's a message from Anonymous there on the WhatsApp line. So as you can hear, Debbie, in some instances, it goes really well. You find a parent who is supportive. In fact, you find a parent who says, well, I've just been waiting for you to be comfortable for us to have the conversation, but I've known you are, and I support you.
Yeah, that does happen. And also it's an indication that people need to move out of their mind, out of their head, out of their thoughts, where the judgments is, and become more centered in their own heart. Because when you're in your heart, you transcend those judgments and belief systems. So it's forcing collectively us as a consciousness to move from the mind into the heart a lot more, because we fixated a lot intellectually and we've disconnected from connecting to the love in our hearts. So it's also forcing people to bridge that distance between the mind and the heart, and to become much bigger than what we really have led to believe.
Hi, Clement. Thanks. I'm a twin, Kinali twin sister, and then we grew up very close together. up until we completed matric, we moved to Gauteng. Then when we came to Gauteng, we were very close. Never ke sa bone hore she is a lesbian, to be honest. But some people told me, no, na behave like mshimani, blah blah. What I remember, we used to argue and fight like as if it's a boy. So then I started realizing, no man, muchungare, something is wrong, kaena. When I found out in hard way. She just surprised me. She came to my place wearing like a man. And I didn't feel so good about it. Anyway, and then we separated like for 5 years. The relationship was not good up until I realized we sat down as a family and my mother, we spoke about it. And then, we're back together. We're fine now. We speak every day just like we used to. I've made my exception, or no, she is lesbian and that's what she wants. And I am fully supporting her. I even went to an extent and negotiated a lobola when she was marrying a partner. Thank you. Her name is Jennifer. And then now I'm Prince. Thank you.
Prince, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Geez, you guys have come a long way, hey? So Debbie, because sometimes, you may give up, right, as a sibling when you probably are trying to get the acceptance of your family, because in the beginning maybe they may not get it. But you look at the twin brother who initially just didn't understand and was confused, didn't get it, and ultimately we're now talking about a situation where the twin brother, participated in negotiating his twin sister's lobola.
Mm-hmm. So that's an indication that he's also able to actually accept more aspects of himself. So it goes both sides. The person that doesn't accept somebody else is also dealing with their own fears and self-rejections. So it works on both sides, where it's an opportunity for growth on all levels. Because if you're very derogatory to somebody else, it means there's still feelings about yourself that you feel judged. So that's a great indication that especially the newer generation are there to elicit change, to force these belief systems to be readdressed. So it is happening on some level. So it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Morning, Clement, and compliments of the new year. Look, I think for us, can I say the old school, it will be difficult. Actually, it's a process. It's not an event just to accept, a child who may belong to the LGBTQI community. And I think mainly because of how society has just shaped our minds, from a religious perspective, most of us being Christian, and even the Muslim community, and of course also, our cultural background. So it's actually a process, not an event, and I think both the parent and the child may need to get some form of help, professional assistance, to get through such. T-Man from Randburg. Sure.
Thank you, T-Man. Is that something you recommend, Debbie, some professional, like especially for families that have got the resources to maybe even get a psychologist, especially also for families that are struggling to accept, as T-Man says on that WhatsApp line? Do you recommend that therapy may assist or even assist at the point of announcing, should someone wish to do that to their family, make sure that there's a third party in the room?
It can help, especially when the conflicts go very deep, because when it's religious contents, it can also go very deep. So embracing it as a journey therapeutically can help, because at the end of the day, all religions need to hold the themes of unconditional love. And that's the premise underlying most relations, especially with child and parents and families, that needs to be fostered. So embarking on the therapeutic experience can benefit both sides again, where it becomes more unconditional love, which defines the foundation of all relationships.
Yeah. In that first moment when someone comes out to you, what is the most important thing family members should do?
The first thing is to be able to listen, as we mentioned before, without responding. Because most of us listen and respond with our own belief systems, as opposed to listening and investigating and asking questions and just experientially understanding the reality of the person without coming in with your own interpretation and views. Because that facilitates further opening of the individual, where it just sets that scene to comfortably be able to express. And then the challenge is to learn, even if you do have a different belief system, to honor the beliefs of others and to still co-create and still be together, but without judgment. So you don't have to necessarily impose your own belief systems, but you can still accept and love them. That's quite an aim. But it means you love your own selves in different ways too.
And in cases where words fail in that moment when someone comes out, what are simple non-verbal ways families can still communicate, love and safety?
I think that example of the mother who just said, go and make tea, where she just showed him that traditionally life still goes on and we still treat you the same way, we still accept you. So those non-verbal acceptance ways where there's no change in the behavior which will indicate rejection or exclusion. So it's just to actually, because actually it isn't something that is in any way needs to be treated anyway that's different. So it's just everything is still okay.
Yeah. On the WhatsApp line, anonymous is Clement. It's not anonymous. It's Tabiso here. Clement, this is Tabiso here. I sat my mom down and I came out to her in the 90s while I was at Technicon. We all had a good cry. She told me she still loved me. The next day, she bought me a packet of condoms. LOL. I miss her so much. That's a message there from Tabiso. Tabiso, thank you so much for sending that. So there's a WhatsApp voice note that's also come through on 0727021702.
My input to Clement's current talk show is simple. Love is the absence of judgment. Full stop. Ruth from Walrow Park. You either love or you judge, right? Thank you. All the best. Bye.
Thank you, Ruth. It's 12 minutes now before 12 o'clock. After the break, I'll come back to more of your WhatsApp voice notes and calls as we continue our conversations about how we can show some love and support a loved one who comes out to you as a family.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Why was the mayor of Ekurhuleni, Nkosiphendula Xhakaza, consorting with an alleged murderer on the very night in which he's accused of killing a popular DJ? And what might the mayor know about the murder of the former Ekurhuleni chief auditor, Mpho Mafole, who was also allegedly killed by the same security guard?
Mpho Mafole was murdered 3 days after submitting an audit report to the municipality scathing of its conduct and how it had gone about choosing suppliers of the mobile chemical toilets in a 3-year, 1.8 billion rand contract.
Connect the dots. Appreciate your time as always, Sikonati Manjanja.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
They're back on home soil. The Proteas men get behind the World Test champions as they face the West Indies in a T20 international at DP World Wanderers on the 31st of January. This match also marks Pink Day and a send-off to the ICC T20 World Cup. Pitch up in pink. Bring your unbreakable spirit and support a great cause. Get behind the Proteas men against the Windies for Pink Day. Visit cricket.co.za to book tickets.
The Dis-Chem Better Rewards program is here, and every time you shop and save, you're also giving back. Each time you swipe, not only are you rewarded, but a percentage of your purchase is donated to the Dis-Chem Foundation to support communities in need. So why wait? Sign up to become a Better Rewards member today and support with every swipe. Dis-Chem Foundation, caring for the community.
Outsurance Life Insurance knows nothing's more important to you than providing for your loved ones, even if you're no longer around.
I took out life insurance with Outsurance because I want to protect my family.
That's why 47-year-old Sonette pays only 251 Rand a month for 1 million Rand life cover.
I trust Outsurance. What you see is what you get.
Get Outsurance Life Insurance cover without doing any medicals. SMS Insure to 47159. That's Insure to 47159. Licensed Insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Are you one of our loyal listeners? Did you tune in over the holidays while we were off recharging? How was it? We would love to hear from you. Simply send us your feedback to contact@702.co.za, or better still, you can do it in person. How about you come visit us this Friday, the 23rd? We'll be hosting another 702 group during lunchtime. We'll take you on a tour of our lovely building and show you our studios. To book your seat, simply send us an email to contact@702.co.za. We'd love to meet you and connect with you.
702
Family Matters.
9 minutes before 12 o'clock, we're talking on our Family Matters feature this morning about support for a loved one, someone in your family who may come out. But this is also important because there are people sometimes who have to come out to their friends. People sometimes who have to come out to their colleagues. So what Debbie House, who's a clinical psychologist, is sharing with us is something that can help you as well as a friend should you be in a situation where your loved one comes out to you. Debbie, why is it important to reassure the loved ones that are coming out that doesn't necessarily change how you see them or change your relationship with them? Is that important to affirm?
A child will adopt belief systems very early on in childhood. It will know very early on whether it's accepted or not, even besides LGBTQ2. So by the time it gets older, it already has an idea of how much it's accepted or not. So sometimes just affirming that I accept you doesn't have impact unless the behaviors correspond with that. Because sometimes we say things, but as we say, our actions are different. So the whole being of the adult needs to be balanced and coherent, because that will provide the impetus for the child to fully feel safe, accepted, loved. And generationally, we're changing that program now, where we can imprint to our children through more balance and living the changes as parents.
Yeah. Is it a once-off event coming out? And what are some of the next milestones, if that is the case? What are like the other milestones that families should prepare themselves for, and how can they stay supportive over time?
It's to continue, because sometimes when they come out, what happens is it's spoken about once and then never addressed again, which almost can be a form of denial, of pushing it under the carpet and trying to move on without complete. So they do need to discuss it more, and invite the person to describe when they first felt it, how they've been feeling about it, and how it took courage for them to speak about it, and just to invite the openings, just to allow everything to come out. Because sometimes when they just mention it and nothing else is ever spoken about, it can reinforce that sense of non-acceptance. So it's a delicate balance between carrying on communicating about it and just sort of ignoring it or just pretending it didn't happen. So it does have continued communication.
And in terms of outing someone, because sometimes when maybe someone sits down with a family and tells them this is what's going on, and maybe a family member may feel the need to share that with an extended family member, or when they're in social circles, why is it important for families to know not to out someone else who has been vulnerable enough to share that with them?
Yeah, it's part of that sense of trust and not betraying them in any way, where if they do disclose it to others, it needs to be in a way where they communicate how they're comfortable with it. So that will help others to accept as well. But if a person rejects somebody and abandons them or punishes them, then that individual needs to work on their own, how they were abandoned or punished. So there's reflective patterns that everybody needs to look at, because the way you treat another is always the way you've been treated yourself. So we can't project.
Yeah. And then in schools, what are some of the practical ways parents can actively advocate for and protect their LGBTQI plus children at school, but also even in the broader community?
The teachers maybe need to be equipped with also the tools of how to identify it, discern it, and also create that safe space so that the learners can communicate to the teachers if there is any form of discrimination or abusive behavior, so that it can be addressed. So it's something that teachers need to be aware of, and it needs to have set means of discipline for those, and also to educate people at schools about that it's not something that they should encourage any form of discrimination.
Debbie House, thank you so much for making time for us. Debbie House is a clinical psychologist.
Psst. Hey, no longer feeling like the man you used to be? The man who's the life of the party even when he doesn't attend. The fact is, 95% of men with low testosterone go untreated. Vitamin High Performance Supplements for men helps recharge energy, regain lean muscle, and reload performance. Available at all good pharmacies and Vitamin.co.za. Vitamin. Don't get older. Get better.
New year, new you, same trusted We Buy Cars since 2001. Whether you're buying or selling, We Buy Cars makes the process simple and seamless. Simply visit webuycars.co.za to complete the Sell My Car form for an offer, or you could browse through thousands of vehicles of all shapes and sizes. Ready to buy, sell, or trade in? Visit webuycars.co.za or one of their branches nationwide.
Let's hear from Chantal and Mel, owners of Jelly Body and Nail Studio, why it pays to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance.
We were with our previous insurer for about 4 years, and when we decided to switch, it was actually a flawless process. It definitely pays to switch.
For beauty salons, convenience stores, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
All right, coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. How are you doing, Mandy? How was your weekend?
It was amazing, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Did you watch the final last night?
I did. I went to bed
You
very
stayed
late.
up?
I stayed up.
Wow.
Stayed up.
You're a brave woman.
I went to sleep after the Senegal goal.
And how did you find it?
So I'm so torn on
Yeah?
this whole thing. I think the conduct of both teams was offsides. I know that I've heard a lot of people come out in support of Senegal. I think Sadio Mane deserves all the
man, what a
accolades
hero.
for his leadership. But I thought that it should never have descended into that kind of chaos in the first place, and that was a result of the kind of refereeing decision-making we've seen over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I know you'll be reflecting on that on the Midday Report today. What else are you looking at?
So this terrible crash in the Vaal, we'll speak to Mongezi Koko, who's on the scene there.
I've seen the visuals of parents who were just so devastated. They were on the scene.
So we'll speak to him. The presidency has issued a statement on that. So we'll start the show with that. We'll look at the Action SA's Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate who's handed himself over in court today. We'll try and understand what's going on with the Iranian decision and the Navy head. So we'll speak about that. The Senzo Meyiwa trial has resumed again today, and then we'll have a look at the weekend sport. Lots to discuss.
All right, that's what's coming up on the Midday Report. We'll be back with you tomorrow between 9 and 12. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Malapo. We begin with developments coming out of the south of Joburg, where the number of learners who've lost their lives following a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park earlier this morning has risen to 12. Preliminary information indicates the minibus taxi the learners were travelling in was struck by a side tipper truck, causing it to veer off the road. The area has been cordoned off as investigators work to piece together exactly what happened. Meanwhile, Gauteng Premier Panyathela Show and Education MEC Matume Chilwane have arrived and are being briefed by police and emergency officials on the sequence of events that led to the crash. Mungezi Koko joins us live now. Mungezi, I understand parents made their way to the scene. What can you tell us?
That's right, Mikey. As forensic pathologists continue to work through the wreckage, officials made another grim discovery, the body of a young learner. Now, Mikey, that of course prompting a call for additional support on the ground. That moment was misread by distraught and desperate parents as a signal for them to move closer, to see, to know, to find answers,